All right, you guys, so we're going to go on a treasure hunt, and what we need to know is what to look for at first, all right? So we're going to give you a list of factors that are going to signal that this could be a good market, an opportunity to go into, all right? And then we're going to tell you, kind of give you the tools, the paths, the techniques, maybe go to Target or something. Don't do that. Actually, you can find product opportunities at Target, but essentially we'll give you all the routes to get there, and now you know what to look for. And then with the last thing is we give you the signals for maybe a bad market. So that way, essentially, let me just draw it for you here. Initially, we're gathering everything underneath the universe right there, okay? And then what we do then is we have the tools and techniques that help us find even more. And then what we do is we just continually break them down. And some will pass certain ones and some won't, okay? And some are absolute red flags of, nope, don't do it, go, stop, don't collect, go, whatever they say in Monopoly. And then we just keep going down. And then now you'll get to a point where there's some conditional ones just to take into account. And then you'll figure out essentially, is this a good or bad opportunity based on this? And eventually you're going to find some really sound ideas that you can't break down. And that's when you know that you should probably go after it. When you've taken everything into consideration, it seems like a good opportunity to you. You can't break it down. And then, well, you're good to go. So now let's go on to what to look for. Okay, you guys, if you've made it to this video, make sure to watch through because this is probably the most important video of the course. One of the top 3, and this will determine if a product has legs, okay? And it all comes down to consumer needs. Essentially, whenever we are buying on Amazon, everybody has an idea of a product in their head, and then we all translate that into words, and then we see images, and then we click, and then we say, is that what I saw in my head? So that's why images are important. Make sure to really optimize your images. Anyways, what we are doing now is identifying what are the customer needs, because that determines, essentially all those images, they're all trying to solve a need. It could be, that fur on the pet, they got to get it off. Or it could be they need something to wear to a party this weekend. Or it could, there's a whole multitude of needs. So we're going to break down, first of all, what the types of needs are, and then why they're really important in determining what types of markets to go after. So there's a couple general ones, and you want to get an array of these, or you want to get a couple of them. You don't need all of these, but you want to have some way to differentiate from the other people, because if you're just doing what other people are doing, then it comes down to price and the number of reviews. And when you compete on price, you don't want to play that game. So here's the games that we do want to play for. And that's by finding ways to fulfill customer needs that aren't being filled yet. So there are general customer needs. These are what people use every time that they go to buy. They're not actually using them like in a checklist and going and filling out like, yes, it meets this. No, they're going and they're psychologically thinking about these. When somebody goes to buy, this might be the only important one. Like you forgot a wedding gift and it's like, what is there? What are my options? All right. So that's one where you could essentially go and add value by having Amazon Prime and deliver in 2 days or even overnight, versus if all the other people in that market were 5 to 7 days because they were shipping it themselves. So that's one thing that we can look out for, is just offering fulfilled by Amazon when it doesn't currently exist. And this also comes into, so basically the meta concept of that is that it's about time and convenience and efficiency. So there's that with obviously the delivery speed, but we could also be offering that in their daily life. So is there a way that we could somehow make this product more convenient or efficient for whatever their need is? So what are their needs though? That is utility. So there is 2 needs actually. There's self-expression and there's utility, and I'm going to explain what those mean now. So essentially, if you're looking for utility, you need to achieve something or improve your life. Like if I'm in the headphone market, I'm obviously looking for something that is functional. So I'm not looking for a self-expression one. I'm not looking for some like ones for a photo shoot or to make me look beautiful. There are some people that only care about the design of them, but a majority of the people are looking for utility. So I would kind of just like, we'll just analyze the different needs and why there's so many products in the headphone market. There's functionality. So Bluetooth, they fold. Okay, so that is great. And what these end up doing is they improve the consumer experience. Okay, so when you improve experience, Basically, you're just going to get a happier customer. They're going to feel like a G when they put them on. He would feel even better if he was wearing ones without a cord, because I love that they're Bluetooth and it makes working out a lot easier. Another factor of utility is going to be reliability. So I know and will pay a lot more for these Bose headphones because they're reliable. They will last for years and they don't break because they're foldable. So like we're saying, it's not like these functionalities are all, none of them are independent. They all kind of intertwine with each other and are all important, and they affect one another. So basically, the customers all have wants and ideas in their heads on each one of these aspects. And our goal is looking at the market and seeing where are their needs not fulfilled, and these are them. So another one is performance, okay? Battery life on these. Now, I like these because they last for 10 to 20 hours and they automatically turn off. So I barely have to charge these. So the performance and reliability of the battery is really great. Now, what we also have is performance could be how good is the bass, how high are the highs, and just that, and those overall affect the experience right there. Now, compatibility, this is kind of a hit or miss. Is it compatible with what you need? For example, if these were only compatible with iOS, I'm not going to buy because guess what? I'm an Android guy. So I guess the question is we're kind of like, what are we looking for? We can see through product reviews or just blog posts on the internet, people complaining, saying, I wish that there was this functionality. I wish there was more, whatever. So essentially, we're kind of keeping our eye out for what are the utility parts where people aren't necessarily happy. Then there's also self-expression. And this is where I suggest that the beginners go. And I'm going to tell you why. Why? Because with functionality, there's only maybe 4 things of functionality that people care about. Some of these are apparent in a market and some aren't. And oftentimes there's only a couple options. But with self-expression, that's endless. Okay. Now, I, for example, like the alpaca swim shorts, but you might like the gorillas, and that's okay. But what makes this great is when there's 7 choices right here, there's no best answer for anybody. Everybody ends up choosing a different choice. And because of that, you could be right down there, the number 6 gorilla swim shorts, because of course number 1 is the alpacas, the best. But people will continue to choose the gorilla ones. So I'll give you now a real life example so that you can make this a little bit more concrete in your head. Here's an example where self-expression and design is more important than functionality. So if we were to look up wedding gifts here, and I could show you quick, there's quite a bit of revenue coming through wedding gifts. All right, so if we take a look at wedding gifts, it's taken a while to load because the internet is just speed of a dinosaur here in Germany. There's examples. Look at this. This is doing $76,000 of revenue of a bamboo cheese board. All right, but if we take a look at, then there's obviously quite a bit of revenue on all the other choices. But if we take a look at these, they're all different. And why? Because design and self-expression is the answer in this market. It's not necessarily about functionality, it's that self-expression. So you're giving a gift to somebody for their wedding, and the choice is different for everyone. Like, I'm never going to buy this glass right there because I'm not going to give my friends a glass for alcohol. And I just always write. No, it's just, that's not cool. Not cool to me. Maybe it's cool to you. That's okay. Or this, people who love kitchen stuff, or people who love wine and cheese, but I'm not really that passionate about alcohol. So where's the one for me? Where's the muskrats? Where's the alpacas? All right, there's your opportunity. Go build alpaca wedding gifts. Just kidding. But I mean, look, we're still, here, this one is good, except I don't have a beard. Anyways, as we're seeing this, they're all different. So you could come in and make a different, Legos. You could come in and make a different product and have an opportunity. So with that, self-expression was important. Design was more important than functionality. And obviously, it just had to meet the bare minimum of utility. But the most important part was that self-expression. Now, if we go and I'll just show you guys quickly where a market where utility is the only thing that's really important, and why you probably don't want to go after one of those where there's not many options to differentiate on utility. So if we take a look at the famous pet gloves, which most people who are getting beginning, they always think this is a great market. This, I'm looking at this and I look at my framework here, functionality, okay? Let's take a look at functionality. What is the function that people want? They want to get that fur off their hairy animal, okay? It looks like they're all about the same. So I have no way to really differentiate between these based off of functionality alone. Now, if we take a look at experience, I don't know if any of these really have a different experience for me getting that fur off my animals. Another option could be reliability, but they all look just about the same reliability. Maybe these look a little bit more reliable because the image, it looks like they're a little bit spikier and that they are just the plastic's built in a little bit more, but that's about it. And I guess you could also make the argument that they'll have a better performance because they've got those high quality spikes. But and then compatible, I guess, like what's the difference? Compatibility. Maybe there's one that's more compatible with alpacas or cats or something. But as we look here, you could try to say, oh, this is the best one for cats, but it looks the same as the other ones. So this is why essentially the market has decided they want to just get the fur off their animal. And that's it. All right. They're not looking to go to a fashion show or a party with and take the fur off their animals. They're just looking to get the deed done at home. So the summary is we want to look for places where we can add that value by looking at all of the things. And there's just not much value to add here other than maybe an image with a different cat or animal, but that doesn't do anything. So wrapping it all up, you want to find markets where there's a multitude of needs and it's not just one need and that's it, because then it's pretty clear who the winner is. You want to go where there are multiple winners, and we'll show you guys later exactly how to go do that. Sneak peek, look at the reviews, look at the distribution of them, and if they all look the same, run away probably, unless you can do something neato there. All right, on to the next thing that we're going to look out for on our treasure hunt. This is the most important criteria that I could possibly use when determining success or not success, or failure when sourcing a private label product. Okay, so and what it is how can I differentiate and add value? So I'm going to show you guys just a couple of ways that we can differentiate here. Well, first, let me tell you why this is important. So back in the day, 2014 and before, it didn't really matter what you were doing. There used to be the days of you could go on private label and just throw a label on it, put your own logo, and then sell and kill it. Well, those days are over. That's not going to work anymore. Maybe if you catch an early market, that's still possible, but I just don't believe that it works anymore. Or if it does, you have to have the best marketing and you have to have a lot of dollars and you have to do some tricks to get it ranking. Otherwise, people just basically aren't going to buy your product because when you have less reviews and the same product as the other guy and he is just as good of a listing, why would they buy yours? And you're not ranking as high as him either. It doesn't make sense from that perspective. The way that you can convince somebody or yourself, like think if you were looking at the listings, why would you buy your product over the others? Well, there's certain ways. Now, then if you play to those certain ways, you can speak out to that individual customer. So I think it's very important to understand the use case for your product and what they are, who the customer is. So that's how you're going to be able to find a way to add value or differentiate. So the first one is going to be, how can you make a better assortment of goods? Okay. Let's say we're going into a market and we're going just on Amazon. All right, so let's say we are looking at GoPro accessories and they're all different assortments, okay, for different markets and whatnot. So you can tell that people are buying whatever is the most efficient assortment for them, and there is a way to add value there. Now, there has been a bit of consolidation in this one actually over time just because there's such high volume and then it's like who can get the most in there. But this is just to prove the point essentially that there are certain ways that you can make an assortment and you get the economies of scale, and that's going to allow people to want to buy yours over the others because it's the best value for their deal. So that is one way. Now, let's say a different size, okay? And let me show you an example of that. Okay, so we have an example of how size can be important here. So there's these essentially these wet wipes that people are using for camping or after they work out or whatnot, and they can't take a shower and they want to clean themselves off. So what was right here? Simply by increasing the size of these wet wipes, they are now more valuable to somebody because they can clean off their entire body with just one wipe. So that's an example of how they've added value through adding the size. Or just think about different markets where a larger product or a smaller product would be more appealable. So let's say we're looking at a case for a drone, which for me, having a very small case was really important because I'm traveling and walking around with this. So yeah, there's those people who are going to want the very heavy duty case that's going to protect their drone. There may be a professional, but then on the other side, there's the travel people who want something that's very efficient. So there's obviously the one for the more professional, and then the travel guys, and there are all sorts of different ones. So that is one way to differentiate. All right, so another way you could differentiate is simply adding a different color. Like let's say for an example, you were selling a fitness accessory or something, and there was just black and just the generic colors, but perhaps there is a subset of women, not to be stereotypical, but there's no pink ones, okay? And my sisters love pink. They're as womanly as you could get, and so they would buy anything pink. So there you can add a color, and then that's going to be speaking out to that customer who's underserved in the market. So there's also the difference of adding features, okay? So let's say there was a handle on something that wasn't the best, or we could go back to these drone cases, and perhaps there was, some people wanted a place to also put their laptop in. So, or like different organizations, basically any way that people are looking for features or say they wish something was like this, but it's not. So a good way that you could go and do that is go look at the reviews. Okay, so make sure to go and watch the video on how to download all your negative reviews, and that's a very valuable way to get this feedback on how to differentiate in general, because that's what I did with the Eclipse glasses, and that's how I found all these different ways. I knew that, oh wait, there's people who are talking about using cameras, and also that there's light leakage. So I made the goggles, solved the light leakage problem. I also found out that people wanted stuff for the camera, and then I was able to make filters for that and filters for telescopes. So by reading through those reviews, you're really going to learn a lot and find these ways to differentiate. All right, so another way is going to be design. So you could change there's two types of design. So there are the basic aesthetics. So let's say a t-shirt, the design on that is, that's very subjective, or a piece of art, or anything else where you can have subjective design. So this could also come into play with things that serve a utility. For example, my Eclipse glasses, I did 99 designs, and I spent hundreds of dollars and got over 35 designs because I knew that by having the best designed glasses, people would be more likely to buy mine over the others, because while they were buying it for a specific purpose, why not? They want the best designed one too. So they want the best, highest quality with the best design. So that was a way that I was able to differentiate there. Now, there is also the 3D form factor design. Now, this one is going to be a little bit harder, because if you have to open a new mold and get a whole new, basically if you're not just adding something very simple, it's going to cost a lot more unless you have a good relationship with your supplier. But this is a really good way to differentiate, because you can get design patent if you make a unique change. It's a lot more simple than that. I may have a video on this in the future. If not, Google what a design patent requirements are. But by having this mold and putting your company name into it, by the way, so that they don't reproduce that mold, you're going to differentiate yourself, and people will buy it. So one example of a design, well, let's just say my Eclipse goggles, okay? So they had a better design that actually added features that it blocked out less light than did the other glasses. So I was adding a feature and a cool looking design, and so that is how I was able to charge, where everybody else was charging $2 a glass, I was charging $30 for one goggle. Okay, so because I solved and differentiated, I was the only person on the market, no PPC, know anything to get that launched, and it killed it. So that is one great example. And I guess that also goes into just the more effective solution. Okay, so but be careful that you are inventing within what people are looking, and just whatever your product offering is actually better. And then just better marketing to the customer. Okay, so if you're looking into a market and it is all targeted towards a certain group of people, and you know that there are other groups that are underserved by either reading the reviews or using your own gut instinct, you can market to that group of people. And then now this product, even though it may be the same, it's just marketed and pitched differently so that other people get the right feeling that, like, this one seems like it's for me. For example, supplements, they're all basically the same thing, but they all market themselves in different ways. Let me see if I can find an example. All right, so right here we have the premium brain function, this one right here, Brain Boost. And what they focus on is memory, focus, and clarity. This one is more focused on energy. And then over here, this one's also focused on energy. So by having the different pitch, people are looking for nootropics, but certain ones speak out to different types of people based off the different, what are the people that are looking for nootropics? What do they actually want? Who are they? So you're going to market differently to a different group of people. For example, Genius Mushrooms is a very different group of people compared to some of these other ones. All right, now I want to show you guys what it would look like if a market is full. Okay, so there's really not much room for differentiation. So that is going to look like this. So if we take a look, silicone baking mat, the way that I can tell is if all of the results are generally the same thing, I really have no way to come in and differentiate. That shows me a sign. So reviews aside and everything, if all the results are similar, like, that's clearly what the market wants for that keyword and that product group. So I unless I have some great way, so I would look at my checklist. Let's say, what have we got there? A better assortment. Well, they have 1, 2, and 3. So and it looks like everybody just wants a silicone baking mat at the end of the day. They already covered. There's already assortments and colors. There's already that. Like maybe there's maybe I could go with size here, but I'm guessing that, I don't know how much beneficial a giant one is, but maybe this one is right there. I'm not sure exactly. Now, I guess that this one did actually a pretty good job. So they add on a nice design onto that. So if I'm thinking, like, if I was a professional baker, now this one kind of reaches out to me. So they did a good job of differentiating by knowing who their customer was. Okay, so, but different sizes already covered. The assortment, we can't really do that. I don't really know how we're going to have a premium one if they're all essentially the same type. Maybe I could make some revolutionary one, but if these work and they're cheap, I just don't see what color, that's already taken. Features, what are you going to add to this? I don't know what I would really add. What else is there? Design. It's a flat mat, I just don't see there in the design aesthetics. Somebody's already done that. More effective solution. I don't know that I'm going to revolutionize a silicone baking mat. And then better marketing the customer. That guy already did it. And how many professionals are actually buying these? I need to research in, but this would be an example of somewhere where I would just be sticking away because it's filled out. Okay. They're all very similar, but then like all these options have been taken, I would be getting out of that. But let's say one where there is ability to differentiate. So right here we have wedding gifts, okay? Do you see the variety? I just want everybody to look at the variety of the results because that shows you there is room for innovation and differentiation, that whatever people are looking for, it is not solved yet, okay? All right, so as we're looking here, there's clearly people like glasses, but they have mugs, they have classic glasses, but basically the whole theme here is they want matching things or anything to do with their new relationship. So look, there's even literally a card. There's a greeting card. Nothing is the same here, but yet there is some. Yeah, there's some pretty good revenue here. and there's definitely room for differentiation. So if you had a good idea for a wedding gift that could move enough volume, you could innovate and rank properly, and you could get into this market. So this would be something, I mean, granted, reviews aren't too bad actually. And that's the other thing, when there is room, like, so I talk about reviews a lot, but when you look at this market, you don't particularly need the most reviews, because if you do something different, you're the only one. That is the only solution. So as long as it meets a certain criteria that people like can be trusting that it's good quality, there, for example, a gift is very personalized, and you want it. It's a representation of yourself. Well, it's serving the utility of giving a gift. It is that representation of yourself. So people will want to be more willing to go out on a limb for something that is even higher priced and more different if it meets their needs the best out of all these solutions. So that's where. So lastly, like with my Eclipse goggles, that was an example where I was able to differentiate. I had several of those criteria, and it was within the keyword, and it worked. So there's a whole spectrum of ways that you can differentiate. So in the end, there's a lot of ways that you can differentiate your product. And I think now going into the future, to stay competitive, you got to do something to differentiate. And I guess the last one that I didn't talk about is you could just have cash. You could have cash and a really good marketing team. By that, I mean you're really good at making images and a listing, and you're confident in your ability to outrank the other people, and you're just a more advanced seller. But my guess is if you're watching this, you're probably not at that point, because those people are probably not watching this video. So I hope that this is helpful, and that you guys go out and actually put in time to do something different in your market and give yourself that competitive edge. That's how you're going to get not only have a better chance at not only are you going to have a better chance at being successful, you're actually going to be solving a market that isn't, or you're actually going to be solving a need in the market that hasn't been solved yet. So people are going to like your company more, because it's like, wow, hey, that was good. Like, that was the only thing that, like, this is the only one that met my needs there. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for making it. So that's how you're going to get more engaged and thankful fans as well. So, I mean, if you just had a little bit better of a silicone baking spoon, where, like, how many of those, when you buy something utilitarian that was the same as everything else, but it just looked like the best option, do you really ever remember that company? At least I don't. Maybe, no, I mean, I guess Anchor's the only one that I really do, but anyways, regardless, if you guys have other ideas of how to differentiate, let me know. Let's leave them below, but this is a very important factor, and don't overlook it. On to the next one. So I always talk about adding value or differentiating yourself somehow when you go into a market to get a competitive edge and to build a brand. So I actually have a great example right here. Let's take a look. These are drone cases for the Mavic Pro. DJI makes their original drone case, but it's not very good. I'm using this because I have my own drone and I had to shop around for this. If we go and we look at these, there's all sorts of ones, and there's different needs. So like I always talk about is there's different parts of the market, okay? So there's the professional who's just going out to, for a drone shoot day, who's not going to use it that often. But then there's also people that, maybe they're more traveling, so they want like a side carry one because they've got other equipment. Maybe they've got a larger drone on their backpack, or they've got a bigger rig there. Or perhaps there's some people that just want to put this in their backpack like me. So mine, I actually just have these little 2 separate ones that I put in my backpack so that I can just have it with my day hike. So there's all different parts of the market. Yeah, this is, I think, what the one I got actually was. And what's nice about these is there's always new products coming out. And all you have to do is get the dimensions of the drone, and then you could work with a factory and get these made, and it's not like it's going to cost. So this is obviously not your beginner product, but if you're going to go a little bit further, and I just want to show you guys that, so this is what somebody has decided to do and made a multi-million-dollar brand out of just making carrying cases. Just a nice way to organize. So you could make nice organizations for anything, and we need better ways to organize and to make our life better. So let's just take a look at this guy, Doobie. sold by Take or Direct. So, this is literally just get the dimensions of each piece. All right, cut it out of foam. Well, how tall do we need to make this? Let's make a nice little zip bag. Cool. And let's check out what his revenue numbers are on this one. Okay, so this is doing $11,000 a month. How long has he been doing this for? Okay, look at that. So he's been very consistent he's been actually getting better the whole time, but look at that, for over a year and a half now. And he's got this product. So this is consistently, this made him some pretty good money. And it's not like he's had to get that many reviews either, because if you take a look at this, I mean, it's only got 112. Wherever there's, some custom work, there's not as many people, but there's still the demand there. So this should be something that I would be comfortable going into, because I think I could easily compete with these other guys, especially if you get in on when a new product is released. So, then when they come out with a new drone size version. If we take a look at the revenue on the first page right here, it's pretty good. And the sales are decently spread out here. We've got 11,000 right there, 5,000, 5,000, 7,000. So this could be, if you get one of these $5,000 spots, about $2,000, $3,000 profit. That's $25,000 a year. So these are where these healthy innovations could come into play. Now, if we go ahead and we take a look at the Mavic Pro, this guy's actually made a whole time living off of just selling parts like this. It's not too complex. There's just a piece of foam, put in the dimensions of the Mavic, and that's it. So this is what I talk about this guy directly, just inventing. If you invent within search parameters and you make something better or unique, you could be, other people aren't going to go that far, and you can have a bit more of a competitive advantage. So if we take a look, here's his top selling products for this guy. What does he got here? For Pokemon. Okay. Whoa. Wait a minute. $20,000? You got to be kidding me. He's making, wow, and it was even better back in the day. So off of this, he's probably making $10,000 profit per month just by selling a little case that was optimized for Pokemon, carrying Pokemon cards. This is genius. Would you take $100,000 a year? Well, even with Q4, maybe $140,000 profit a year. And it doesn't even have that good of ratings. Look at this. There's still room to improve here. I guess just nobody else must be competing against him for... Or maybe there are a couple other ones. Let's see this guy. What is he doing? This is 2 reviews. Okay, this is probably like a low-hanging fruit for somebody who wanted to get just started. Don't go do it because I'm showing it to everybody. But this just goes and shows you can invent within these small parameters, and just going ahead and doing something different or value add. So maybe we would analyze all the Pokemon holding cases and see where their needs are not being served, and just make a little addition to, contact a case manufacturer and have them change a couple features, test it out. And there you've actually added value, and now you've got some competitive advantage because you're the only factory that, your factory is the only one that's making it like that. Every way that you can build up this moat around your business. What else is he selling? Uno, Doobie, DJ Osmo. Okay, it's just another piece of foam. It's not like he's going to make $1 million off of any one of these, but if you add all these up, look, that's another $1,000 a month profit that he's going to get. This is where I would find ways to add value, do other things like this or whatnot. You would do whatever you want, but this is just an example of what I think is good value add play for private label. You've added value, doing something different. You've got a competitive advantage. There's search demand there. Everybody wins in this scenario. So hope this was very helpful and that you guys enjoyed. Keywords is one of the most important processes that I use to find good ideas. And the whole point of doing this is to find what are the images in people's heads and essentially their needs, and we're going to try to solve them where nobody else has. So I'm just going to quickly explain how the process kind of works on Amazon. People identify a problem or a need. Say they're going to an event, and then they see the solution for that. I need a purse for that event, okay? And then they translate that into a word. So, okay, something's coming up, idea in head. Well, how do you describe that? Put it into words. And then now they see, and that's the keyword, obviously, the word. And now they see that. And then what is the process? Does this match that image? Is what they do with every one. And whatever one matches that image in their head, huzzah, is what they click and choose and buy. So this is with one individual image in their head, okay? And sometimes none of them match that image. So then they have to use the problem of what's the closest, okay? That's essentially how the process works. We described the process for one individual looking it up, but now every individual looks it up differently. So here's my attempt at describing a purse. And this is the important thing. If I was buying a purse for somebody, like if you're a lady, you probably are like, no, what do you like? No, like I would not look up these words. But a man buying a purse for a lady looks up something quite different because I have no idea. Okay. So here's the point. In a market, there's lots of keywords. So it goes way wider than this. Okay. So that's an important concept, is the number of keywords. All right. And the also important is the number of images, because we had that one image for the lady earlier, but now there's lots of images and there's lots of words. All right, so in a market, there's a lot of keywords, which we've already identified, okay? And then there's a different depth on each one of them. All right, so how many people are looking that up? And then there's a lot of images of what they want in their head. So essentially what I'm doing with keywords is I'm looking where are there a lot of people, because there needs to be volume and people looking stuff up. But where is there a mismatch in the products on the page and the image in their head? So we want to find somewhere where essentially the products on that page for that keyword. So imagine here's a lot of volume for keyword, okay? And then if we look at the products, where do those products like not match the image in somebody's head? All right, so the way we're gonna, this is kind of complex, but stay with me through it, okay? Because this is what everybody else does, is what they do is they look at the volume and they say, well, what are people buying? That's what I should do. What can I copy, okay? Instead, what I do, and we'll show you an example with the eclipse, is I say, what are people looking up? What are they buying? And then where is the mismatch? Where is the one that doesn't even exist yet, but people want it? That's where I like to go. So each market, some markets might have lots of ideas, okay? You know, those are kind of all translated into different words by different people. That's one option. Or there could just be maybe a couple of ideas and one of them doesn't exist at all. So this was the eclipse glasses. Everybody thought, hey, we should just make eclipse glasses. And so everybody was making all these different ones. But I essentially started to think of like, well, where are all the different ideas? And then all of a sudden I realized, wait, somebody like, okay, I looked at the products and I read the reviews and I saw through that people wanted a viewer that wouldn't let in light through their eyes. So that's how I found what people wanted. But you can also look at the search terms, okay? So what is the whole process here? We don't know what these ideas are. That's the problem. And this is what I'm always looking at. The only thing I look for is images in their head, because that's what they're looking for. But you can't see those. You have to kind of create that yourself. Whereas most people just look at what is selling and what are people looking up and let me copy and build that. No. Not how I do it, or how I think people should do it, because this is the real way to provide value to people. You try to say, where are people looking for and what do they not have? What is not there? So on each word, essentially what we're able to do with keywords is we look, where are people looking? And then we look at the options. So then we say, do these options look like those images? Okay? Yes or no. And if they're all the same, like in pet gloves, and there's only a couple ideas and images in people's heads, well, it's going to be harder to compete here. because they just imagine themselves getting that fur off the animal. All right. And that's about it. But with the eclipse, there was this big one where they imagined just being able to look at the sun and not have to worry about it. So I was able to look at the options and the keywords, and I was able to identify that people wanted a safe one that blocked out all the light. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but there wasn't an option for that. So I did that. And that's how I was able to make products that added value. And then I was able to also look at who the customer is. So by looking at all these words, okay, these and the reviews for the products, you're able to paint a picture of what these images are. And what we do is we essentially try to get all these ideas so essentially what these ideas and images are, these are the consumer needs. So we're able to look at keywords, paint a picture of what the needs are in people's heads, and then also look at the reviews. And then when we have all of these, and then we try to say, okay, well now do the products on the market fulfill those images? And that's essentially the process of keywords. At a very theoretical level, now we could show maybe a more practical example so we can put it all together. Now we're going to simplify and show an example. So essentially, summarizing everything up, keywords are at a fundamental level, they're kind of a clue or a hint. Okay, there's a lot of them. But when we look at all of these, what we can start to do is we can start to draw the images and see what actually people want or imagine in their head. All right, that is the whole key behind keywords. Okay, and then what our main goal is to now figure out all of these images. Originally, maybe you think it was just here, okay? But by looking at all of these keywords and hints over time, you might find that there's more ideas, okay? All right, so if we just look at the sold products here, and like, well, here's the keyword and here's what people are buying, so they must want that, you know? But no, you got to go and look at all of this, and we find, wait, they actually want something up here that doesn't exist at all. And that's what I did with the eclipse, okay? So originally it looked kind of like the pet glove market. There was just a couple of options, and they were all these paper glasses, okay? Paper glasses, and everybody was looking up like solar eclipse glasses. All right, so pretty much everybody was looking up solar eclipse glasses. But when I looked at kind of the wider keywords, I was able to find out that there was some people looking up for kids, okay? And there were some people looking up, so there's some people looking up for kids. There were some people looking up like NASA certified. There was ones looking up safe and all this stuff. So essentially I was able to get my hint. Well, obviously I want to get NASA certified safe ones and kids. Okay, well, there's people buying for kids, but everybody who's looking up solar eclipse glasses for kids, they aren't actually typing that in. A lot of them who are thinking of buying them for their kids, they're just looking up solar eclipse glasses, and then they're seeing which ones match for the kids. So by looking at the long tail, looking at some of the less searched ones, we're able to better draw that picture, okay? And if you think about it kind of at a very more fundamental level, of course, if everybody's viewing this, like, there's going to be a lot of kids, but maybe not everybody's looking for kids because everybody's just trying to do their best to imagine, like, putting the ideas in their head into words, and then, you know, this stuff shows up. So I started to look at all of the keywords, all of the options, and then, you know, kind of looking then at the options. All right, so here, then I look at the reviews. Okay, so I look at the reviews and I start to see what people say. And people started to complain. Oh, complaints are great. Complaints are great because they tell you what people actually want. All right, and then people were saying that light was coming in the middle and like that, and they were worried about their kids taking off the glasses. So I see stuff about people looking up for kids. I see people complaining about them being cheap paper glasses. And I also see people worried about their kids taking it off. And so this gives me a hint to make some goggles or to do something else, okay? And that obviously people want NASA certified. Like, it's a very scary thing. You're looking at the sun. You want nice, safe glasses. So I was able to really paint a picture of this. But then I saw people also in the reviews saying, I bought this for a party. I also saw some like governments buying it and making things. So I started to paint a picture. So I look at kind of like who are the customers, and then you need to look at their needs, okay? So essentially the needs of this, by looking at reviews and keywords and stuff, obviously they want safe, they want ones for kids, blah, blah, blah. And then I was able to like kind of see that. But I looked at the customers and I saw there was governments, there's individuals, and there's also families. There was also, guess what? I saw photographers in those comments. I saw scientists. I saw grandparents. I saw everybody, okay? So I just started to build up, like, who are all of these markets and what are their needs, okay? And then by looking at all of this together, then you can now start to paint an image, like in your head, or you start painting images in your heads of what all of their images are, okay? I start to take all of this and now I start to see what are all these images up here, okay? And then I compare it to what is there right now. I know it's getting kind of messy here, but essentially now these are my thoughts of what the images are. Could it be a better picture? Yeah, but I'll just put it together for you guys, okay? Essentially, I painted pictures of what I looked at the reviews, I looked at the keywords, which all gave me hints to make ideas of my head and like see what wasn't there, okay? And it turns out that, guess what? There were lots of things that weren't actually there. Nobody was serving, and I made those and served them, okay? And if you would have just looked at what sold, you wouldn't have done this. All right, so what I essentially identified was, wait, there's groups. There's big groups. So they want a bulk quantity. So we sell like 50 or 100, okay? Great. Nobody else was doing that. Did that. Oh, great. now give them price. And what were their needs? They just needed safe ones, and they needed ones that were economical because you're buying for a lot of people. So I made that and kind of catered it to that. Now, what about what else was there? There was females and people who were buying for kids. None of them were really designed for kids, okay? So there was also the family market, and all the designs kind of sucked. They all have kids, and they could either have, boys or girls, or there's grandparents, there's all sorts of people. So I started to say, like, well, they want safe ones, they want certified ones, and everybody also was mentioning that it was a once in a lifetime experience. So you probably want some cool ones for kids, because if you think about it, kids, they like fun looking stuff. I don't know, but they also wanted safe ones. So we made cool looking safe ones of paper and the goggles, because people wanted those and people were worried about their kids taking off the paper ones. So because I knew that families were buying for their kids and people wanted safe ones that didn't let stuff in, I was able to paint a picture of what people actually wanted, and I was able to sell through a keyword that you might not have. If we go back to here, nobody was looking up for Eclipse goggles, but I was able to paint a picture of their needs and then make a product that came in here and solved those needs even though they weren't looking for it. That's how I go about, like, if you're going to invent or do something. But the same concept applies to everything where you're making and doing unserved customer needs. Essentially, we want to see what the needs are and then how to solve it. I mean, it could literally just be a different color, could be a different feature, could be something different. But if we gather all of these keywords and then paint the picture of their needs, see what they say in comments, then we're able to see where essentially what keywords we could go after and actually like where those mismatches in the market are. I just want to say that this was a tiny bit intuition, but it was only intuition after I had looked at all the data of what people were looking and what they were saying to now make those images in my head. And so I'll give you guys now more a concrete example. So one option is we can look at a product, okay, that is selling. It's selling a lot. And then we can use a reverse lookup. And this essentially will tell us all the keywords, 1, 2, 3, that it sells for. And we can even see where it ranks high, okay? Because if it ranks high for a keyword, it sells a lot through that. So if we find one where it ranks high and there is a lot of volume, then we see that. And then when we look at all the options here for that keyword, so if we find that there's a mismatch between the keyword and the products on the page, and there's a lot of volume, then that means that there are probably images in people's heads that don't exist. That's the reverse technique that I use, okay? It's a bit complex, but it's actually not. You just find something that's selling a lot and ranking high where a lot of people are looking, and then if it's like, what? That, like, these options don't seem very good for that word, and there's like lots of options but not good, then it's like, oh, there's unserved images in there, and then you dig deeper. This was just the high level fundamental way of thinking about this, and later in the course we show you guys how you actually go about doing this tactically and visually, and we use Helium 10 to use this to do the reverse search and analyze the keywords. But right now, just know that overall you want to find where the images in people's heads are not matching what the results are, and where there's actually enough people there. So that means there's dollar bills to be made, and the people are just like, well, I guess that one was the best and I need this. And so we want to go where their dollar bills are, and they'll be like, well, that's my guy. So, or girl, or whoever. So next video, you guys will see that later tactically. I just want to leave you guys a little case study for the premium product working for me. My solar eclipse glasses, they're on average, they're selling for about $2 a piece with everybody in the market. And then I came in and I made these goggles that were premium. I solved the problem. There was light coming in between in the eyes and with everybody else's. And so I solved that problem, made the best eclipse viewers. And then as a result, I was able to charge $30 for my goggles where everybody else was charging $2 for the glasses. And people were eating it up. And I got to the top of page one. I was doing like 500 sales a day on those without any PPC, without any launches, anything. It was just, I had that best premium product, and I got so many emails just full of love from people because I had provided the best product for them, invented it, and everybody was happy. So there is always that, when you have that premium product, everything that I outlined in this video, it comes true. So hope that you guys have a premium product. Okay, so when you are going for private label, I suggest that everybody makes a premium brand, and these are the reasons why. So the number one reason is perceived value, okay? People will give something like more value just because it is priced higher. They will think that it is worth more and it's the absolute best. It may not always be, but you're just going to have a more lustrous feeling and whatnot when people are going for that. And then on the backside of that is what I've learned is there is always a market for the rich. So where I am at in my life situation now, I used to pinch pennies on everything, but now I just buy the highest quality, which I normally equate to just the highest price. So if something is worth more, it's getting more of my attention now and more likely for me to buy than if something's cheap. Like if something is cheap and at the way bottom, I'm like, I don't know about this. So just know that there are people out there, and there's thousands and thousands of people out there in society that want premium products. I mean, if you look, the average salary of the Amazon Prime member, I believe it's over $70,000. I mean, there's a very wealthy class that is buying on Amazon in the United States. So you guys definitely take this into account. And the nice other things about having a premium brand, you're going to be getting a lot better reviews because you're making the best product for your market, okay? Now, it's going to be really easy to get good reviews if you have the best product. All right, it's like, wow, this was the best to solve whatever need. All right, so we've got that, and people won't mind leaving a review because they're actually happy that they got the best product. All right, they made the decision to go with you, be the best, pay the most. So that is good with that. And then, if you're going with cheap products, you're competing on price, it's going to be hard to keep that, 4.5, 5-star reviews. Those are going to be tough to get. So we have that, and then at the end of the day, I guess, there's one more. You're going to have higher margins with a premium product that's higher priced because yeah, maybe you add $1 or $2 more, but you're able to charge $5 to $7, $10 more for your product, and now you have more money for ads, okay, and for giveaways, wherever you're gonna do it, you can just really put a lot more into branding. And then the other part of that is when you have higher margins, that means your ROI is also going to be higher, so you're gonna have much more cash flow free. So you're going to be able to grow faster as well. I guess what I would like to say is I'd rather be selling $1,000, or I would rather be selling 10 units at $10 profit, or I'd rather be selling 100 units at $10 profit than 1,000 at $1 profit. Just in theory, because just the slightest change in that one guy could lose half his income, okay? But we're probably not going to go from 100 sales down to 50, but that one guy, just the littlest thing can really tweak his profitability. So I like to have those margins, have a premium product that I'm proud of, and knowing that I can build my brand, then knowing, hey, they had this great experience with me. Now I can add more products, and they had that wonderful experience. Yeah, that's the way to go in mine. And because at the end of the day, the last point, you're proud of it, and you want to be proud of what you're doing. I mean, at the end of the day, we're here to, some people are here to make money, but at the end of the day, I'm here to make change in this world and do something great. You don't just want to be a copycat. Me Too product, just doing some arbitrage and making money. I mean, you can if you want, but eventually move towards providing real value and adding to this world is, I think, what the goal we should all be working towards is. So I hope that you guys do choose to go with the premium product and help solve some needs that aren't being solved. So I just want to really emphasize this, that the Amazon marketplace is a marketplace, okay? So what the basic factors of it are that it's supply and demand. And so in this video, we're going to talk about how you could increase your odds. Like, let's say you haven't chosen a niche yet. This may help give you some ideas of where the best opportunities are on Amazon. And where the best opportunities are, in my opinion, are where there is more demand than there's supply, or there's no innovation in the market. So we're going to go over some ones that I've just thought of off the top of my head. This is not an exhaustive list, obviously, but hopefully it gets some ideas spurring. So basically, think about this. For the entirety of history, all products have been created with retail in mind, because that was the entire distribution and supply chain. There wasn't a way other than mom and pop shops to get at the individual consumer with something that did basically, if you ever look at packaging, you ever wonder, why is there so much wasted space? What has to fit on a retail shelf, okay, and whatnot. So what I like to do is think about, what would a retailer not do? So I was doing retail arbitrage, and I've sold over 5,000 different SKUs in my life, and I got to see all this different stuff. But what I learned from going into all these stores over and over is they don't serve every market, okay? They have to hit all their distribution chains. Let's say there's all these Walmarts. If they're going to put something on the shelf of every Walmart, they're not necessarily niching down and just putting stuff in one Walmart. Maybe now they are a little bit, but it has to move volume, and it has to be acceptable to society, because everybody's going to walk in that store, and something that may offend somebody else can't be in there, particularly. So you got to think, who's going to be the retail buyer, and what types of items would they sell? So ways that I would think about it, let's just take, for example, taboo products. Obviously this works at a store like Spencer's, but there's not a lot of Spencer's. So I actually like to look at Spencer's, because there's all sorts of, that's kind of culture right there. The younger people, and they sell meme stuff and all sorts of cool different items, and there's demand for those, but they're not stocked historically. So there's all these markets that only can really exist on e-commerce and Amazon. So that's where I would be going, because there's not big long-term established brands like there are in retail. So for example, just beauty products, just think of anything that you would go and buy at Walmart. You probably don't want to go into those. You might, there's certain ones, but go where there's not these big entrenched brands and where, stuff that wouldn't existed. Like, for example, bundles. You don't really see bundles at Walmart or any retail stores. So you can add value. It's kind of based on you, the consumer, to go and get all the things together. Maybe they'll put this, these retail, put all these different retail displays up so that you could go and make your own bundle yourself, but that stuff just doesn't exist. Or, specific niche markets like we were talking about earlier, they're just not making that kind of stuff because it may only work for a certain segment of the niche and they have limited floor space. So that's where I would be going. And then, so there's types of products that retail wouldn't sell. But then what about this? So think about underserved ethnicities and ages, okay? I can tell you from my personal experience that the people that watch my YouTube channel, and typically the people in these Facebook groups for Amazon FBA, they're about 20 to 50-year-old white and Asian men. That is, there are obviously exceptions, but think about women, LGBT, African Americans, other ethnicities, or my friends from Ethiopia, and he's saying that a lot of the Ethiopian people are looking for specific products, and they don't even exist. They're having to do these backdoor shops and flea markets to go and sell stuff to their community. So there's just a lot of underserved markets because we typically try to sell to people like us and whatnot. But I mean, that is where we know the best, especially elderly people. They've got a lot of money and they need a lot of help. It's the fastest growing age segment. So there's definitely a lot of money to be made in that too. So now think about this, business to business. It's not sexy, but businesses have so much money. And I know that when we had ran a manufacturing plant in my house, I was buying stuff all the time. And that is a very underserved market. I can tell you that's probably one of the most wide open because they do not leave reviews. It's some employee buying it or someone they don't have time to go leave a review and they'll oftentimes repurchase. So there's that, that whole B2B place is very underserved and Amazon is trying to push it really hard. Then governments, I sold a lot to governments with the Eclipse glasses and, they're not spending their dollars. Okay. They just need to solve this problem. Buy it. I would sell ink to these governments all the time. When I was getting Radio Shack, I would get these inks and toners and all sorts of stuff. And they just don't care about price. It's just someone who's a lower level and they're just buying. So you can and not many people are really catering to these niches. So you can go in and get a competitive advantage. Now, then yet again, seasonal. A lot of people aren't going after it. It's harder to track. There's just not as much innovation in there. So anywhere where there's not as sexy of markets, there's going to be more opportunity. And then obviously the last one would be new markets, but this is dangerous. You don't want to get stuck in a fad, but if you get in a mega trend, so not just a fad like a fidget spinner, but you go into a big growing trend that has legs and has passionate people, not just a fidget spinner, it was everybody, it was a fad, okay? But let's say you're going in a specific niche of health, like CrossFitters, you're going into paleo, keto, stuff like that. That's a long growing trend. And it's going to continue to go. There's a whole community and whatnot. You could really build out niches within those. Now, they're not as new, but there's always new trends coming up. And so you can build out your niche within those. So just start to think about these different places where there's not entrenched brands. Retail wasn't in. These are obviously, don't follow these rules. These are just ideas to get the brain cells and, the juices going. So I hope that this helps provide some insight to a certain extent. And the more barriers to entry. So if you haven't watched the barriers to entry video yet, I suggest you guys go watch that one because the more barriers to entry or essentially, at the end of the day, it's supply and demand. All right. Where can we find where there is more demand than supply and then innovate within there? And I think that is a good mental model to think about going with this. So hope that this is helpful and on to the next one. Okay, this is the biggest mistake that I see sellers making on Amazon every single time. When people come to me and I see people posting in groups, this is it, okay? Do you have the resources to compete in this market, okay? And now I just want to break this down at more a theoretical level and a fundamental level, okay? So I guess more at a fundamental level, do you have the amount of cash flow? Do you have enough cash to buy units to be selling as much as the people on the first page? That's it, okay? For several months, because you're going to have to stock not only 1 month's product, you're going to have to stock while it's shipping, and lead time for your manufacturer. You need to be able to ship and hold on hand about 2.5, 3 months of inventory. So whatever they're doing at the warehouse or whatever, the first page on Amazon, like basically wherever you want to be, you have to sell that much units. Is that it? Like, okay. So you have to have that many units. So I've seen people do this before. They go to like dog pet glove. Oh, so many people were like thinking this was a great product. And I was like, no. Okay. Now we take a look at these and let's just do the revenue here quick. I don't think this is the right keyword, but like some of these are doing massive numbers, okay? Like that one's 257,000 and whatnot. Let's say 40. Let's say you're trying to be one of these top guys, okay? And you want to be $41,000 a month. Well, let's say inventory is what? Because it's an $8 product. Inventory is probably $2 a piece or something. So that's going to cost you 10 grand. You're going to have to have float 20 grand or more. And you're going to have to do so many giveaways. So not only are you going to have actually have that money, okay? That's one. Just can you get the inventory? Two, you're going to have to do massive giveaways here because look at the competition. They've got a lot of reviews. Not just the reviews and do you have enough money to get there, but why would people buy yours over the other ones? Okay, that's what it comes down to at a certain point. And if you can't answer that like that, it's going to be really hard. Like this guy's doing it smart by going with the premium product and then showing that with the fur, like, oh, look at how good this is. But so many people don't literally think about that. So if you go to the search page, would you personally choose your product? And if you could do that, then you're good. That's great. And if it's at the right price point, you always want to be that high premium price point because that'll make your margins better. But some people are just going into things that are way too competitive and you need to match the exact amount of sales of the people that are up there. They just don't think that through. And then I ask them, well, how are you going to get up there? Well, the other guy was selling good with his pet gloves, so I did it. Like, no, that doesn't work like that. Why would Amazon show you his unproven pet gloves with very few reviews that aren't any different over that? So sorry if that sounds negative, but you've just got to logically think about these markets. So you could differentiate and serve a part of the market. But like some of these are just too competitive to go into if you don't have the money to do these giveaways, because that's as it gets higher and higher and higher. Some markets, like everybody has to do giveaways and cheat just to stay ranking because it's not cheating. It's technically against terms of service in my opinion. I don't do launch services. Do what you want though, but you have to be doing Facebook giveaways and whatnot. So people don't think about it from that perspective enough, in my opinion. Literally just if you can answer the question of why would people buy mine over the others, how can I add value, and you I guess the other thing I didn't look at is so obviously number of reviews, because that'll be a huge barrier to entry. If there's so many other reviews and you're not different, you're the same price. But then if they don't have good listings, okay, you could come in and improve, make a better marketing pitch, but if it's all done well and it's all well selling and the margins are low, like just know and be able to answer the question, this is how I can compete and this is why people will buy mine over the others, and then it'll work. But if you can't, then maybe pass, go to the next one. I just want to show you one example of where I didn't have the resources to compete. I still don't know if I do. I could put it in, but essentially there's these Arduino kits. So there are people that are just learning how to solder and build electronics. And there's some people doing massive numbers, 206,000 a month and whatnot. They don't have too many reviews. And I could definitely have come in and differentiate here. Because they're all just bundles of different kits, and it's all about making the best kit for the right market. And I don't think it's marketed the best, but I don't have the supply chain ability that some of the people do in Shenzhen. They all know the manufacturers, or they are their own, and then creating these electronic guides and kits is just be a large undertaking. And some of these They specialize. They have a whole electrical engineering department showing all these different kits that you can make, and they have pre-made programs for you. Yeah, like, I mean, this is a very good brand, and they're killing it if you just look at it. Come Q4, I mean, they might do $1 million a month just on one product, because they're, teaching your kids how to learn STEM these days is huge. So, I mean, I just can't scale like they can. Look at all these lessons that they're making. So, yeah, this is somewhere where I still couldn't compete. All right, so that was the high level, but now I'm going to really break it down just so you guys can see granularly. So you might be thinking that it's only money to compete, but it's not. So here, just writing it out, there's actually 3 types of resources. It's skills, differentiation, and money. So just because you got money doesn't mean you're going to make it. So by having differentiation and skills, you can get the money over time, but the money, you got to have enough money. So we're going to break down kind of how to calculate how much money that you need to go into a market to be successful, and videos throughout the course help you know if you got the skills or the differentiation. What you need to do is you need to look and kind of do this math. So we would take the quantity of units per month, and then the price per unit, months of inventory, and then your marketing ad spend. Okay, so let me explain each one of these. So if you're looking at someone and they're selling 1,000 units a month, okay, and let's say it's a $10 product, so that's 10,000 in revenue, and it's 1,000 units. Okay, now what you need to do then is look at the price per unit. So go to Alibaba and just type in the product name and do a general search and see kind of what the average price is, just to get a good feeling. Let's say the price for the unit was $2, okay? So this means that we need 2,000 units a month, or $2,000 a month, like, of units essentially. But you don't want to buy just 1 month of inventory. You want to buy 2.5 to 3. Now, this is dependent on your lead time, okay? What do I mean by that? Essentially, the time for the manufacturer and your shipping time, okay? So normally, let's just assume it obviously depends on every supplier, what type of industry, what type of product, but you could generally expect it's going to be about 45 days for the manufacturer. Oh, and by that, 2.5 to 3, that's in months, okay? Because that's just how we're doing it. So 45 days for the manufacturer, and then you've got shipping, okay? If it's going by air, it'll be about 15 days, about 2 weeks, because, they got to get it, they ship it gets into the Amazon warehouse, processing. All right, now if it's going to be sea, it's going to be more like 45 days, okay? If you're shipping by air, this would be 60 days, okay? And then by air, and then by sea is going to be more like 90 days. Not fun. Okay, so if it takes 90 days to get back and you reorder and then it's 90 days till it hits Amazon, well, when you launch your product, you're probably not going to rebuy the day it hits the Amazon warehouse, because you're not sure if it's how much to order, if it's worth it. So essentially what you're going to want to do then is, that's why we have 2.5. So this would be 2 months. Okay, but then we add in a little bit of time, because obviously we're not going to rebuy right away. So that's why it's like 2.5, and then obviously if it's C, so it'd be 2.5 months there, or it'd be 3.5 for C or more, depending on how everything works out. So that's why I use about a 2.5 to 3. I suggest most people go with air, even as you're scaling, because it just we're not going to go in depth on that. If you want to learn more about lead time, we do have a video on that where we go really in depth on the lead time. Not in this one though, but that's just the basics of it. And lead time is actually one of the most overlooked things, because imagine if your lead time was 1 day, you wouldn't have to invest nearly as much, because you could just get more product the next day at a fundamental level. Okay, so let's just do the math here quick. So we had 1,000 units. So 1,000 times 2, so this is $2,000 a month to fund that. But you have to have months of inventory. So that times, let's just call it 3, is $6,000. Okay? So we would need $6,000 there. And then we got to have marketing ad spend. Basically, you're going to need a couple $1,000s for PPC. Okay? Now this will come back to you, because you're selling and getting money for the items too. Just know you're going to have to spend money on advertising, obviously. So let's just use 2,000 here. If you want to know, we will later have more videos on PPC in the course, so you can watch that. But just know you got to do that, and you got to have photos and stuff. So, you know, maybe let's just call it 2,000 for that and PPC to get going. If you're going into a more aggressive market, you're going to have to spend a lot more dollars, okay? So in general, I mean, let's just call this about $8,000 to go into something that's doing 1,000 units a month and $10,000 in revenue. The summary here is that you got to just think practically about what it will take to replicate success. And this math is even more important if you're not really differentiated. Now, if you are more differentiated and you're not going to have to spend nearly as much on PPC, and ranking will be a lot easier, and then it's going to be a lot better. But assuming that you are equal to your competitor, you're going to need to match their number of sales to get there. This is all very obviously dependent, and you're not going to know the exact answer. I don't. It always kind of depends, but we can get close. So that's what I've done. I've always done out the math, and I was able to predict the eclipse demand and everything in my inventory by just getting close. Was I perfect? No. But by doing the math, you can know right away, like if it's blatantly like, well, I'm not even close to being able to compete here, well then, you know, that's what this whole thing is about. You don't need to go this in depth as you're evaluating ideas in the beginning. You know, so there's other factors that are more important. But basically, here's the thing. Let's say, you had 10,000 that you were going to invest. I probably would not go after something that's going to require 8,000 my first time. Or even like at any given point, when you look at your total amount of dollars that you have to invest and spend, if you're not making money on any products yet, like I would not invest my whole nest egg into something. I've always invested portions of my wealth and where I think there's a great upside and I have the resources to compete in that market. So here's the thing. As you gain skills and knowledge and capital and have income sources from Amazon and other ways, then you can progressively take more markets, because as the markets get bigger in revenue, they require more money and there's more competition. So, just progressively you get more resources of skills and money. So don't start too high. And you can always go lower because that lowers your risk. But yeah, just make sure you're not biting off too much to chew. And this applies if you're just getting started, and it even applies to advanced sellers. Like you never want to go too far above, but you do want to go at that point where there's a big opportunity. And that's a whole nother thing. Expected value is a great way to choose these markets. So we have a video on expected value and doing the math more so, but this is just high level. Make sure you're finding that Goldilocks zone of a product opportunity, market opportunity for yourself. Let me know if you guys got any questions, and on to the next one.
We're going to talk about barriers to entry now, and this is one of the most important concepts when you're choosing an effective market that you can go into and compete. So really pay attention. Now, if you are a beginner, basically a barrier to entry just means, just to give it literally, how hard is it to get in to a market, okay? And now there are all sorts of barriers to entry, and each one of them is a different type. Now, is a barrier to entry a good or a bad thing? That's what we're going to cover in this video. And then what are the types? Now I'm going to talk about each one individually. So capital required. This is a big barrier to entry because it's probably why a lot of you aren't pursuing markets, okay? Now, some of my higher level friends, they like barriers to entry, okay? This is a case where barriers to entries are good because you guys can't, like the new people, they can't go and compete on something. So he only sources products that are over $50 each because he knows there's only a couple people that have the money to do that. Now, I personally, with my products, I'm going for like $2 to $3 million product a year products. Now, I know that to get that type of revenue and everything on what I'm focused on, there's only a couple people that can really compete with it. So I'm completely happy with doing it, and I'm even okay taking a lower margin on it because I know that barely anybody has the capital to do that and is willing to take as low of a margin because I'm building out my brand. Okay. Now, here's another barrier to entry. If I have a brand, this isn't on here. So if I have my brand, my personal development brand, or whatever, and I am able to sell my products at break even or a loss because I know that I can get people onto my application, my software application, or to come check out my YouTube channel or to do something else, I now have all of these different pyramids or these pillars up here that the lifetime value of my customer is higher when spread across everywhere. So I can lose money on a loss leader like that. So that is one barrier to entry. And you'll see a lot of businesses actually will lose money, like grocery stores lose money to get you in the door because they know they're going to make money on the back end of it. Yeah, that could be another barrier to entry, is just somebody selling at break even because they want to build that relationship with people. And then also the capital. Now, size and logistics. So some products are so large that you can't ship them affordably through Amazon. Now, I was going to import my mentor and I, we're going to import massage chairs because they're huge. They're giant and they're heavy. And we couldn't ship them through Amazon. We literally had to ship them through, we had to get a 3PL, so that is a third-party logistics company, and then we would have to sell them on LTL, which is I can't remember it off the top of my head right now, but less than a truckload. So that means like a specific truck would have to go out and deliver this. And can you imagine the returns? Or a broken massage chair? We literally would have to get a whole warehouse, get a whole support team and everything to deal with these chairs and whatnot. And it was very profitable. And but here's the flip side of that. We decided not to do it because it was a headache. And we said, let's just make money some other way. And I was like, yeah, I don't even want to just be sourcing stuff just for money. So that's what happened. But here's the thing. There was no innovation. There's no innovation in the massage chair industry because there's a lot of capital required, and it's huge. Like, these things are really difficult to ship. So when there is a lot of barriers to entry, there's no innovation. That's cool though. Just like in my market, so with my solar eclipse goggles, there was no innovation in the goggle or in the glasses because it happens once. That's another one down there. So that's seasonality. Okay. When it's something that's not happening very often, there's just people there's not a constant force of change in the market to make the next big thing come. It comes and it goes. So I was able to innovate with the goggles, and that killed. So that was awesome. Now here's another one. If there's a certification that's necessary, some people look at it and be like, I don't want to do that. Let me get something that I could just source in an hour. All right. Liability. If you get sued, this is me specifically, I wanted to import LED lights more than you can imagine. Literally, my passion is lights. I built some really cool light inventions, but I just could not find a supplier that I trusted. And it only takes one burned down apartment to completely take away everything that you made. So I wasn't able to do that. So liability will be something that will deter you, and certifications. So another one is customer support. Like I said, with that, specifically with tech products, also food and health products, you'll get a lot of customer support. So just the more support and hassle there is with something, people are going to be less likely to go into it. Here's another one. So this one is bundles. So assembly of multiple manufacturers. Okay. So if you are putting together a bundle, now you find multiple manufacturers and you get them to ship it. So you ship it all to your main manufacturer who assembles, packages it, and ships it to Amazon for you. Now, not other people can't just go on Alibaba and buy your bundle, okay? It doesn't work like that. They have to go out and do that extra work themselves. And because that takes extra work and time, they're probably going to be lazy and not do it. So that's another way to create a barrier to entry. So like we talked about, barriers to entry is good or bad. It depends. You want barriers to entry when you're in a market, and to get into a market, you don't want them, but you will when you get into it. So lastly, closing up here, creativity or added value through design. So my solar eclipse glasses, I had the best design for specific subsets, specifically women and children. Now, it didn't matter that the other ones they looked kind of like mine, but mine just had the best design. So sometimes, look at art or whatnot, like it's different for each person, and the value is in the design. It's not in the product. Like the product could be the same, but the design. Why do some people buy certain brands t-shirts and other ones? There's brand affiliation, but certain times it's just, God, that's a good design and I want it. Like art is the best description there. And there are products that have aesthetic feeling. So the main point of that is aesthetics. There is a big difference of aesthetics and utility. Okay, are people purchasing for utility or are they purchasing for aesthetics? Now that's something to take into account. Now seasonality, inventory forecast, we talked about that, but just lastly, a lot of people won't do it because one, it's hard to find. Barrier to entry is, how do you know what seasonal products are going to sell the best? How do you know exactly how much to buy and sell? You don't want to be stuck with it for a year. So that is where I suggest a lot of people go, but not if you're a beginner, because you don't want to mess up your first product and then be stuck with it for a year. But then on the flip side, that's why people don't do it. So I don't know. I did it. It worked for me. Go see the seasonal section if you're wondering about that. All right. So change in consumer taste. I'm actually going to consider this a competitive advantage and not a barrier to entry, but you could call it a barrier to entry from somebody else. It's a barrier to entry for you, for others, because you have the ability to your competitive advantage of catching trends or something, whatnot. That would be like that. So this is the list of barriers to entry. You want them when you're in a market. You want them so that it doesn't get oversaturated. Typically, the more barriers of entry that stack on top, the less innovation and the more margin and the more opportunity. But it's also harder. So take that into account. Yeah, it's kind of the risk reward. Everything in life, the more work you have to do or put in, typically the greater the reward. So I want everybody to just take into account barriers to entry. They are very important in my opinion because they are where most people quit, okay? So if you can get over these barriers to entry, that is where I see the greatest success. I mean, if you look at my Eclipse example, we had seasonality, we had capital. What else did we have? We had liability, we had certification, we had logistics, and we had creativity or added value through design, as well as a change and consumer taste. And I also had the assembly of multiple manufacturers. I had to create certain products, like literally we invented them. We had to get stuff from Germany and we had to get stuff from China and then assemble them and build the packaging in the United States. So I literally had, we're just looking at this list, everything against me. Well, everything for me, if you look at it like that. And that's why I killed it. All right? So choose your barriers to entry wisely, I would have to say, and but you don't want to choose something that's too competitive or has too many barriers. You don't want to choose something that has too many barriers because then it's going to be really hard, and you might not actually do it. So find somewhere that you think is right. So if you choose somewhere with no barriers to entry, you better have really good competitive advantages. So there are two sides of the card. All right, there are barriers to entry, competitive advantage. You can compete in the world's most competitive markets, but you have to have some edge if you're going to compete in the world's most competitive markets. We're going to talk about the flip side of barriers to entry, and that's the competitive advantages. So how are you going to have a competitive advantage in a market? So we're just going to cover some of them right here. It's not an exhaustive list. So just think about it, all right? When you say I really think it's important to think about the game theory of what's going to happen to a market as time goes on, okay? So you may look at the market right now, but what's going to happen and how will you continue to compete for the next year, for the next 2 years? Maybe you can only compete for 2 months, but if it looks profitable when you're in that situation where you're just chasing money, you could still do it, okay? But just think about it. So over time, whoever has the economies of scale, whoever's buying the most goods, they're going to continue to get cheaper rates because they're buying such high quantity. And then they can lower their price, and they don't need, when they have a lot of capital, they don't need a very much profit margin. As long as it provides even a 10% margin and turns over 4 times a year, that's a 40% return on investment just sitting there. That beats the heck out of stocks, beats the heck out of anything. So That's going to be one competitive advantage if you can just get the best price and you have a lot of capital. What about this? Driving external traffic. Okay, if you have the ability to a large audience, if you're an influencer or something, or you can run ads really effectively and get people there, then now you could compete where maybe somebody else can't. All right. Now there's also just having a better product market fit, and this will go along with the information advantage right there. So if you have done your research, you found all the flaws, and you've made a improvement, maybe aesthetically through a better design, or you've made a better feature to the product. Now you have that type of advantage so that people will buy yours over the other ones. Okay. Now what else is there? There's value. And so when I say value though, I mean this is more bundle, okay? You're providing the same widgets as everybody else, but you've done it in a way that you've bundled them together so that there are cost savings. You've done it some also probably some information advantage, and you're serving that specific people that want to buy all those together and save them those dollar bills. Now maybe a guarantee or warranty, it's probably not going to apply as much in private label. I do suggest that everybody has a lifetime warranty on their product because barely anybody's going to take you up on it. I had it on mine, and yeah. All right, the next ones are intellectual property. So obviously if you have a patent or your trademark, that's going to help. And then obviously brand preference. It doesn't matter if you make the same thing as Nike. They're always going to outsell you, and people always want the Nike. They're not going to want whatever your brand is until you make them want it, okay? So there is that. And then there is lastly, we've got product quality and market timing, okay? So if you're first to market, you get that first mover advantage. And then you've got that, you're up there in ranking, and you've got the reviews. And unless somebody comes in and knocks you out somehow, you're probably going to stay there. Yeah, like the highest high quality product is really just going to be a competitive advantage of, not everybody competes on price. I'm just going to say that. Competing on price is a terrible idea. There's always a market for the rich people. Terrible as it sounds, I almost always buy the most expensive product now. I didn't used to. I used to always do my research really hard, but now I will not buy something near the bottom of the market if it's in something that's important to me, because I say, oh, that's probably of low quality. Now, the generally is okay, but it's not like there is always a market for the rich. Trust me, guys. So I just want to share a little story with you. There was a guy who, I think it's from the book Influence, where essentially there was a jewelry shop and they could not get rid of this one ring. Whatever, and they said, okay, we need to reduce the price by essentially 1/5 or something, or it's 1/2 or whatever, and they ended up either multiplying the price by 5. Instead of lowering the price a bunch, they increased the price by a bunch, and it sold right away, and they hadn't sold it for months beforehand. And it was now that this worthless rock was perceived to be worth a lot, people wanted it. So that is called perceived value, and it is true across every aspect of life, and which is possibly also why I had to do so much work to convince you guys that this course is actually it's valuable, and that just because the other courses cost a shit ton of money does not mean that they are worth tons of money. There's perceived value. A lot of people think, oh, ASM, that's $4,000. Guys, perceived value right there. There's always a market for the top and people that will pay the most. Trust me. I guess just think of it like go look at the cheaper courses and you're probably like, oh, whatever, not worth much. And then you'll get ASM and wow, that's the best. No, it's just the most expensive. Just summing this up, when you're looking at a market and you're judging your skills, take competitive advantage into effect. What is yours? Or maybe there's some more competitive advantages here. There definitely are. There's probably over 100 competitive advantages. But think of what ones you have, and then what barriers to entry you're going to overcome, and how you're going to build this moat of I'm going to penetrate the market and then protect myself. Because if you have no competitive advantages and there are zero barriers to entry, could be tough. Will be tough, I'll be honest. So just find something. This factor alone, game theory, is the biggest reason for why I was successful in the eclipse. That brought me that extra, maybe it would have been 3, but it was 6. Because I thought about game theory
and thought about economic models and predicting the future. So now this is a bit more advanced video, and you don't necessarily need to do all of this, okay? Like a lot, I'm just putting everything out there. So let me just explain. Now, this is a tip I got from my mentor, but then I also went into it myself, but this was huge. So so let me just start off with, like, is this, for you specifically, like, is this a brand opportunity or is this an arbitrage opportunity? So I made a full video about this. It's on my YouTube. I might put it in here, but we'll link down below to where that is. But essentially, think about it. Who is going to be coming into this market and why are you? So is this just like arbitrage, supply and demand change? Or is this, wow, this is going to add long-term value to my brand? Okay, so make that decision for yourself and think about, the long-term value of this to you and where you're at in your career, and make a decision based off that. At some point, you got to stop going for these arbitrage opportunities, in my personal opinion, just because you want to start building something that scales once you get the cash flow. But if you're just going for the cash flow, go for that. But now, onto the real point here. Let's talk about the level of success and sophistication of the other players, okay? So what I like to do is click on the sellers' names in the market and see if this is their best product, and how many SKUs they have, okay? So now if there's a big fish and you're taking out one of his, his 18th best seller and you're going to steal sales from him, he's probably not going to do anything, all right? But if there's some guy in there and he's got 3 and he's clearly Chinese and you come in and you start taking big sales, you're taking his livelihood, or if it's just someone from America or another country, they're going to do maybe black hat retaliation and whatnot. So they're going to be a more scrappy person if you come in and start dominating. And so just take that into account. It's not the most important thing, but it's big. So, but then now, overall, think about the age and the shape of this market, okay? So is this going to be is it like this new market, not proven yet, or is it a fad? Okay, so like a fad, typically stay away from fads, okay? Now, but people may be like, you went with a fad. I didn't go with a fad. I went with a very predictable event. And here's where the game theory went in. I thought about, well, who are the players that are going to do this? And I realized, hey, everybody's going to think that this is a one-time event, or they might not figure out about it because they're all looking at product research tools. They're not looking at what's going to happen in the future here. So I was like, everybody is going to get on it too late, and people are going to be afraid they're going to be stuck with eclipse glasses that they can never sell again. So they're going to underbuy. And I did that, and I did the math, and I looked, and I said, all the sales are going to come right at the end, because I looked at Google Trends for blast eclipses and everything. So I said, I want to be the last seller left. And that paid off huge, because I was the last person left with eclipse glasses. Well, there's one other guy, but so by thinking about the game theory, that really paid off. But maybe you're not going to get something like that, understandable. But think about this, like, so the game theory, is this thing going to last for 10 years? Is this going to be an evergreen product? Or is it a megatrend? So when I'm talking about a megatrend, like healthy living, organic, something proved by science, or like, I guess, the ketogenic diet, stuff like that, where it's a rising niche and it's just ever growing, and like it's a cultural change. Think of this. It's going to be a constantly rising market for a long time, and they're going to be pretty passionate market. All right. So that's something where it's like, oh, maybe it's a little competitive, but I think about what's the long-term game if I come in here and compete. But if it's, a consistent market or whatnot, that's something that just, you play it a little bit differently. Then now if it's seasonal, you definitely do. But here's the thing, like we talked about in the video where we talk about the barriers to entry, we realize that the more barriers, the less competition there's going to be. So where I try to focus is a mega trend. So it will be, if it's competitive, but it's a mega trend, that's okay with me. All right. I'm not going to go for a fad. I will go for a new market, but there's still some risk there because it's not yet proven. But if it has the potential to turn in, so if you go to the Google Trends video, you can learn more about how I kind of classify these. And then is it seasonal? Like seasonal, there's actually huge opportunity. It's harder, and you got to predict very well and whatnot, but there's just not that many people do it because it is harder and it's not easy to find, and it requires a lot of planning. And then if it's like a dying market, that's like fidget spinners. There's just less and less sales each day because it was a fad. So really take into account that. And one way you can look, another one that's not on here is review rate. Okay, so on average, how many reviews are there per sale? All right, now if you're in one, like I found one that was selling consistent for the past 3 years, and the top listings had like 30 to 40 reviews. In that market, just people didn't leave reviews. Now I could come in and the listings weren't well optimized, and there's these big fishes, and they're all kind of selling in the B2B space. So they're selling supplies to other businesses. So the people that are buying these were just employees. They just buying them for the business. They're not really leaving reviews. Now, that's something where I come in and I look at the game theory. I look at my competitors. So don't just look at the listings, but like actually look into their business, okay? Click on their seller name, look at all the ASINs they list. Like, is this I guess try to create a mental image of who they are in your head. Like look at their other product offerings. Is it a private labeler, or is it a B2B business who, it's a 50-year-old man or woman who owns this, and they got just employees managing it. They're not who don't care and whatnot. Or is this like private labeler, 4 items, he's on it, and that's like all the. So look at the whole market, not just. I talk about knowing who your customer is, but know who your suppliers, your competitors are. Like check out their website. What do they do? That's going to be a good way to get a tell on how competitive it's going to be in the future. So summing it up, I'm looking for something where we've got something. We have rising seas, rising boats. Like a rising sea lifts everybody up. Somewhere where I can make a brand in a megatrend would be ideal. Or just something that's consistent where there's not that sophisticated of players, but it's, private labelers haven't gone into this area yet. Or if you find something that's new or fad and you find it on the beginning part, you can kill it. But just know that it's going to get competitive, okay? So think about what's going to happen 6 months, 1 year from now. Can I compete on something other than price? That's another big factor, because the Chinese will come in eventually if it's a good market. And then if you have no way to differentiate when the Chinese do come in, like how do you protect yourself for that future? These are just like a list of everything that I could possibly think of when looking at, just game theory and everything. But the main findings from my game theory was most people will avoid the eclipse, and most people will be afraid to have excess inventory. And my players in my market, I can be that guy who does that calculation and holds it till the end, and it paid off really well. So just thinking about possible scenarios, don't get stuck in it though, but just take it into account, because if there's 0 barriers to entry, a lot of people and it's profitable and just lightweight like stuff, people are going to hop in. Just know that, and just have a plan for what happens when that does. Also, I didn't talk about supply and demand. So as time goes on, there are more competitors in a market. Now, you need to look at what happens to demand, okay? So if supply is larger than demand, in general, the price goes down. That's why you want to be a premium product, okay? So you will still have those people buying, because some people just go to the top price stuff and buy those, like me, and I know a lot of other people do. So take that into account, but just know that game theory and basic economics will push prices down over time. That's why a lot of sellers, they always have to be adding new products, and margins get lower, but there's only to a certain point. Once the market becomes solidified, the top players have that competitive advantage at the top, and they can maintain their margins and keep it profitable, but everybody else essentially gets kicked out over time. So you want to find that sweet spot in the market where you can still get in and solidify yourself and maintain in that market. And then it's truly passive as long as you keep it going and you've got it ranked up there. Now, some other big players may come into the market over time with big resources and can still compete, but less and less people can compete over time. So take that into account. But they won't come into a market if it's not worth stealing. Now, so if it's worth stealing, it's probably going to be good forever. for at least for a long time. Hope this is helpful somewhat. Leave comments down below. Let me know what you think. If you're confused at all, I'll add to this, but don't get stuck on this, but don't ignore it either. This is the most important criteria that's determined my success on Amazon FBA and just everything that I've done in life that I've paid money at, okay? And it's expected value. So this comes from statistics. I'm banned from casinos for card counting, and that entire process of betting and choosing which hands to play is all based off expected value. So we're not going to get too deep into the math, and I'm going to make this as simple as possible. But if you can understand and master this concept, this can really change your business, or if you're looking to get into it, it can reassure you that you can choose the right opportunities, because not every opportunity is created equal. So let's just get into it right here. There's two parts of expected value. So basically, when you're going to buy product, okay, if like the number one rule in investing from Warren Buffett is don't lose your capital. Okay, if you could just recoup your capital, but you're going to be fine. And then there's the other side, which is maximizing your outcome. So choosing opportunities which can really just blow up your business and your life. So basically, we're going to dig into those right now. Okay, so let's look at the Powerball. How are they able to, make money all the time? Well, it's because they know their math. Okay, so if we look at here. Basically, there's all these different scenarios that can possibly happen when you buy a Powerball ticket, and you can get paid different ways. But they know their numbers well enough that they're always going to win money on average for every ticket they sell, okay? So when you buy a Powerball ticket, look at the probability there, okay? You can't change any of these probabilities of these outcomes. It's fixed. In any e-commerce activity that you have, there is each one of these potential payouts, okay? So this would be nothing, like you have a bust product and you get nothing back. But you could tweak what that expected amount that you would get back is, so it wouldn't have to be 100% loss if you do it right. So I'm going to teach you guys just how I go about thinking so that we make sure that the worst case scenario, we don't lose dollars, or we just lose a minimal amount and not 100%. And then we're going to talk about how to maximize these other probabilities. Basically, if we go into it, I'll just tell you a little bit of my story of limiting my downside. When I first got started out, I was selling pennies, okay? It was the safest investment in the world. I was buying pennies that were from 1985 and before, and they were made out of 85%. I don't remember the stats exactly, but they're made out of a bunch of copper. So if you were to melt the copper down, it would sell for more. Okay, so I had a sorting machine. I would go buy pennies for a penny and then sort them out, get these ones, and then sell them online to people for 2 pennies. And I would do that at scale. And I knew that the worst case scenario, I would just be stuck with a bunch of pennies, and all I did was waste my time. Okay, so that was one scenario. The other one was I'd get these pennies and sell them to people. So I was doing that for a while, but I wanted to make more money. Then I got video games where essentially I looked at the average selling price of video games, and I would buy them in these big lots. And I knew that I would always there was liquidity in the market, so there was demand. So I knew I could always sell these video games as long as I paid the right price. I could get my money back. So that worked great. Then I was going into retail arbitrage, so buying stuff from stores. And I was buying stuff that I had proven demand, so I knew I could liquidate and get all my money back. And then the same thing, I started to move on to bigger Apple computers that were expensive, but I would buy them at a really cheap price, and I would have a buyer protection. So I was sourcing them on eBay, but if somebody sent me a computer that didn't work, I could open a case and get my money back. And if I sold it, it would be fine. And then I'd buy insurance, so to insure the whole process. And it was essentially, you couldn't lose money at this process. It just took time and work. And so I eventually evolved onto that. So this is the first part of the process, okay? So we go back to here. How do we make it so that this is 0, essentially? So we're never going to lose that money or closest. Well, basically, my criteria, I want something where there's just like some inherent value to it, okay? It's not worthless, and I'm just selling it and 100% depending on Amazon to rank me and make sales. I try to think, does this product have utility? Could I sell it wholesale? Could I sell it on eBay and Etsy? So go look at eBay and Etsy and look at, is this being sold? So I don't have to depend on the ranking system of Amazon. Could I go sell it to businesses, or could I repurpose it and do it as a giveaway for like on Facebook or other stuff to help feed my future products. So that way you won't get a loss actually. So I guess examples of that. So some of my first products were failures that I did private label, but I always had a backup plan. So I had these hippie glasses. Where are they? All right. So I had these hippie glasses. Okay. I got them for about $2.50 each shipped. So I knew that I could go and sell these in person at music festivals, so probably $10 a piece, but I could get them out at $5 a piece, fire sale, and I could get all of my money back. Now, I never did that because I ended up to be in this fortunate circumstance where it's just not worth my time and I don't want to go, hand-to-hand sale, but I knew I could get my money back. Now, my next example was my 80/20 wristbands, and I'm wearing one, and my mugs. I knew that I could, even if they didn't sell, which I ended up selling all the mugs on Amazon for Christmas, I knew that I could at least give them out as business gifts, and the ROI was so huge on it that if it would have killed it, it would have been so profitable, and I had a backup plan. So we're going to get to that, the maximizing the upside in a little bit here. Then I also had the Eclipse glasses, so those worked, but I knew that in the worst case scenario, I could sell these wholesale to businesses, okay? I got the best product that was in demand, and I knew if somehow everything went wrong, I could sell these, call up businesses, just put a giant listing out on eBay and Amazon, and I could get rid of these because there was going to be a lot of people buying them. I had good quality product. There was a way to liquidate it. So you always want to look for some type of liquidity, okay? So if we look at my first Eclipse glasses, I bought 20,000 units for about $5,000+ and I knew in the worst case scenario I'd be able to liquidate them, and maybe I'd lose $1,000 because of there's fixed costs such as product, photography, and shipping and whatnot. But I should be able, since I bought such a large quantity, I got it at the best price. It was good quality, so why could I not find somebody else that would want to buy? That was my thought process there. And then in my best case scenario in my head, I said, wow, I can make $100,000 with these. So I kind of did the math, and I was expecting to be somewhere within this range. So I knew there was like 100 million people could view the Eclipse. So I said, why can't I get some of those sales? And the best case scenario, I was like, I'll be somewhere in between here. The odds, as long as there was some probability of being at the top, and then, the real probability was somewhere in here, I figured, but I ended up being way out here, So that's essentially just thinking about these potential scenarios will really help. So now let's get to the end, okay? I had this decision about a month before the Eclipse. They closed down Eclipse glasses. They closed my listings, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get back up. But I bought 100,000 glasses when that happened. So I put down 50 grand of my own money because I did the math, and I knew that a lot of people aren't going to go through this. And if I somehow find a way to get back on Amazon, I looked at what the selling price was and everything, and I did supply and demand, and I said, wow, I should be able to make $10 per glass here. So I could make $1 million extra if this goes right. And in the worst case scenario, I lose $50,000. And I said, that's such a huge payoff that I think I'll get back up. And I did have some listings, and I knew I had some backup plans, but I said, all right, I could get somewhere in between there. As long as I sell 1 out of 20 glasses that I buy, I'll break even. And then anything above there. And the payout was so high, I said, I want to have more glasses than not enough, because the payout is just so high. So by doing my math and just trusting in my gut instinct, and not being taken by fear, I was able to just crush it. And this came true. I think I actually made more than $10 a glass right there at the very end. So that paid off in a big way. Okay, so we're going to go back to the expected probability here. Now, when we're looking at these higher end ones, so we've learned and we've talked a lot about limiting this downside, but the upside, think about if this were to be successful, how long will this product be there for? Okay, is this a trend or a fad? Maybe not. Maybe don't go for it. But if you're a beginner seller, maybe go after it. if it, you know, it's not going to be this longest term value thing. But the bigger sellers, we're going for the things that are going to make us the big payday, okay? That are going to have a huge expected value. And because of that, we're going to put in a lot more cash. So if you're a beginner, maybe put your efforts into something that's why we go for things that are less competitive, less amount of reviews, not as huge of a big expected payout, like potential. You know, we're not going for the jackpots because that's where the big sellers are going for. Because here's the trick. The probability isn't fixed on Amazon in e-commerce. When you become better at selling and you know what you're doing and you have cash, you can alter these probabilities. And that's why the best sellers win time after time. Like my friend had launched 44 products and he failed one ever. And it wasn't even a failure. It's just he stopped it because it wasn't as profitable as he wanted. So as you get more skilled, you increase these probabilities. Okay? So now what it comes down to is choosing which opportunities are going to be less competitive, because when you're not as skilled, you may need to choose ones where not as many people are going to go after, and you have a higher that's how you're going to increase your probabilities of each one of these scenarios of payouts, by choosing something that's less competitive. But your payday won't be as big. It's going to make a big impact for you. And then as your skills get better and your resources, then go for these higher probability ones. So the way that you can also reduce your risk. So I have an in-depth video on ROI and margins and cash flow. So watch that, but just know that that is advanced. Okay. So just a heads up. So I want to summarize and show an example of what I'm talking about now. So if we just talk about that chart, basically there was the probability of success, and then there was the amount that you get paid out. Okay. So those are like the only two things you can alter. Okay. So what you can do is you can make your probability of success go higher by either one, being better and having resources, or two, going after stuff that has a lower payoff because there's less competition there. So when there's less competition, you have higher probability of success. So this one just shows just kind of some of the interesting. So if we look at this, essentially this one was doing like 4 sales a day or something, and it has been consistently. All right, it's just this motivational wristbands with like some quotes on them. But this only costs like $1, like $1.20. All right, so, and you didn't need to buy that many to get them going. It's not very well optimized or anything. But so for a day, let's just do some math here, okay? 4 products a day. And if you guys are advanced, watch the more advanced video and I'll get super more in depth into this. But this is for beginners. So 4 per day times 30. All right, times 12. So that's 1,440 units a year. And the profit on this is huge. So by reducing that bottom part, there's the what's the probability if you fail? What's the expected value of that? Well, since it has such a high ROI, okay, basically you're buying it for 1, and what happens when you do this is at the end of the day, you end up getting like $10 back minus your 1. So you make like 9, let's say ads, like $7.50, $8 profit, okay? So you make $8 profit and you pay $1.20 or whatever. Let's just call it $1. So 8 divided by 1 is 8. Or 1 to, yeah. Anyways, I should go to sleep. Okay, so you get 8 times your money. All right? But the only risk was not this listing never working. So you only ever risked about $600. Okay? Because these aren't even that great at images and stuff. So here, this guy took a risk where he puts up $500, maybe open some old $600 here total. But yet, 1,440 units is what it's sold in a year, times 8. So 12 grand profit when he risked 500. So now he has some other ones that have been doing this for 2 years. Okay, so there's $23,000 profit off risking 600, or maybe even higher. Anyways, that's you multiply your money by 38 times, okay? So there's all these sorts of different markets out there, and the smaller and less competitive, the higher your probability of success. So basically, if you go after ones with a high probability of success with a high ROI, then that's what you really want, okay? So now this one wouldn't be as attractive, but you look at your initial investment, okay? And then what are the potential outcomes? And that's what's so great about Amazon FBA and why you see so many millionaires made out of it, or just people doing even six figures, is because the expected value, if you choose a right market and you choose something with a good ROI or whatnot, the lifetime value of that listing is worth so much money, okay? And people just repeat this process over and over and over. Like good luck getting 38 times your money in the stock market. Yeah, so the expected value, if you do your research right, it's pretty much, you can limit your downside to barely lose anything, or maybe just lose 20% of your money, but the upside is so great that you can just crush it. So if you want to learn more about ROI, and I suggest you guys do, but just know that it is an advanced video. Now we'll get into the weeds a bit and cash flow and whatnot. But as I'll note the other thing here, that what's so great about this one is cash flow. The more cash you have tied up in a piece of inventory that has a lower ROI, the higher the risk, okay? Because if you're having to buy 4 months of inventory on something that's doing high volume, you've put up tens of thousands of dollars potentially, and it might go bust, and you might not make all your money back. And losing 20% of 20 grand, that's $4,000 that you've now lost. Plus you've probably had to do giveaways, a PPC and stuff. So it is more risky as that expected payout gets higher. Okay, so but as you get more skilled, I won't repeat myself too many times here, but I hope, let me know if you have questions about this or if you need me to explain it further. But just looking at the possible scenarios and playing that out, you can build up your skills in a very safe way that you're not exposing yourself. So I guess the biggest mistake I see people making is they go after these huge dollar amount ones and they don't have the resources. So if we go back to that probability table, the probability of them making any of those dollar amounts is pretty low. Okay. It's just essentially non-existent, because just their skills, their strategy, their resources, and how competitive it is. So I want to illustrate here just how you can increase the expected value by going after something with a higher probability of success that has a high payout, actually. So if we take a look at these wristbands here, and we pull up Viral Launch, I just want to show you guys. So it doesn't look like much of a home run. It's it's $2,600 a month. But if we look at this, it's been selling extremely consistent over time. All right. And it's been doing about 175 sales a month very consistently. And if we take a look at this, it only has 16 reviews. And these are the motivational wristbands. This is why I originally went into Amazon. Fortunately, I did put 80/20 and that didn't work. But anyways, essentially what it works out to be here is I could pull up the cost calculator. All right. And that's a little in depth. So I could pull up the cost calculator here for Viral Launch, and essentially it sells for $15. The Amazon fees are $322, landed $237, and then the referral fee. Anyways, what does this mean? We make $7 a unit, okay? And the cost of this they cost about 40 cents per bracelet. There's 6 of them here. So the total cost of this is $2.40, okay? And then you make so the total cost here, $2.40, profit per unit, $7.20. But let me just show you. Let's take a look at the expected value calculation here. All right, so we're taking a look at the expected value here, $7.08 profit per unit. I guess in my math, I did $7.20 profit per unit, whatever, close enough. Still illustrates the point. So your initial order quantity would need to be about 300 here. And at 240, about $720, some photos, and I didn't add in PPC here, but let's just still illustrate the point here. You don't need to do much PPC because there's not much competition on this at all. You really didn't need any reviews either, because it's a very unique, different product. So what happens here is that essentially after 1 month, you make all your money back. And as we go on over time, look at this. The money just keeps going up and up and up. So after 24 months, this product makes $35,000 on a $920 investment. So that's 38 times your money, which is pretty crazy. So now this doesn't really look like a home run to most people, but what to me it does, because what is the thing here? So your profit over time, it just keeps going up, and there's basically no storage fees for this because it's so small. And then if we look here, we had a $920 initial investment, and the ROI goes all the way up to 38x after 2 years. So look at this. So when we're calculating expected value, you have the worst case scenario. So your worst case scenario, you lose $920, okay? But your best case scenario, you win $35,000. And that's only after 2 years, because this is going to continue to go on into time. Now, competitors may come into the market, but in this one, nobody really did, because it doesn't seem like that big of a market to go after to steal. So if you find these scenarios, like look at that. So we had a 38x return on this after 2 years. So as long as, in theory, if when doing this, as long as 1 out of 38 products was successful, then it was a break even. Well, this guy has clearly done way more, and he's making a lot more money. And so over time, if we're able to find these ones where there's a huge expected outcome comparatively to what you put in, this is how you can just keep adding products where people aren't going to come in and steal, because it doesn't look like it's that much to get. But over time, by adding these products that have these crazy payoffs, you can add up a lot of these small ones, and then you could have a full-time income or even more. And this is where I think that there's a huge opportunity. So go where there is some way that you can differentiate and find where you can mathematically, like, okay, well, let's say even with that worst case scenario, $920, you're probably going to sell some. Like maybe it only sells 10 a month. Well, you could probably over time get all of your money back and still make money. Maybe it takes you 2 years, but it's so small that there's essentially barely any storage fees for this. Because it doesn't even take up a cubic foot, so it'd be like $1 a month to store this. So essentially, there's basically no cost for this. And even if you run into long-term storage fees, it's $22 a month even. So, a year that, even if you just pay these crazy Amazon fees, a year it would only cost you like a $240 or $260 or whatever to store, and it would still profit. So the worst case scenario really isn't even. So that's where I think that there's opportunity where these will sell over time, slowly maybe, but you could probably recoup back that whole money. And in the best case scenario, we made 38x our money. And these actually really didn't take much. These didn't take much work. You could have just got some designs made on Fiverr. You find some supplier to make these pretty easy, very lightweight, and just this is a very practical, logical one where essentially the expected value is not, or the expected value is just huge. Like, if you go to a poker table or something, or you go to a blackjack table and you have a chance of, well, you could either make 38x your money. In the worst case scenario, you get basically your money back. You just have to wait time. Like, I'll take that every time. So this is what I mean by expected value. And we go really in depth onto this on the last one where we talk about ROI and margin, lead times, and all of that. But here's just to prove the point that there are safe ways to take product opportunities, and it just takes doing a little bit of the math. I hope that this helped you guys, and if you have any questions, let me know down there. I love doing the math, so if you want to see more math examples, let me know. One of the other factors that I really take into account is the shipping time and the lead time, as well as the size of the product. Okay, so with size, there is a competitive advantage if you're going to ship something that is large, because you're going to have to do sea shipping, and it's a bit more difficult, and there's higher fees and everything. But just when I am in general thinking about a product, the smaller that it is, there are some bigger advantages, okay? Because I can go and buy a larger amount of these products and store them at the Amazon warehouse for a longer amount of time, and I'm not going to get killed on storage fees. Also, shipping by air is a quite easier process, and it reduces that lead time. So you get your product out there faster, And then let's say you have some errors in inventory forecasting. Now you won't get hosed on shipping by doing air. So you'll be able to react much faster. I know a lot of people are advocates of sea shipping, and it can be a great option, but there are a lot of downfalls. And unless you're shipping a large enough amount in your shipment, you're not actually going to save that much by doing sea. Obviously, if you fill a whole container, you're going to get massive savings. But I just find that the faster I can get my feedback loop, that I'll make up for the margin lost. And it won't even be margin lost if it's small. Just in general, it makes that feedback loop a lot faster. So try to go air if you're a beginner. C will make things more difficult. And the biggest reason is cash flow. Now, one of my friends does 8 figures, and he still does all of his products by air. I mean, every once in a while he'll do C, but it's just things are going so fast, and he needs every bit of cash flow that he just keeps things going in air, and the logistics get really messy when you're trying to get all these sea shipments. It depends on the size of your products and whatnot. So just really take into account shipping and lead times. And if you're a beginner, I suggest finding something smaller rather than larger. But there is, like I've said in the competitive advantage section, there is opportunity where it's more difficult. But my one highlight, I try to avoid oversized units because Amazon charges an arm and a leg if you get into the oversize. So make sure that you watch the fee video if you're not aware of that, and don't go into oversize because you're going to get hosed, and it makes a lot of things unprofitable that you think would be profitable. So until the next time. Oh, and I guess one other thing I should say is the only reason I was able to go 0 to 6 million in 6 months was because my shipping time from my supplier, it was in the US. It was literally 2 days. Okay, 2 days into the warehouse, and we had pretty fast lead times. So, and with him, I guess I didn't talk about lead times enough. From the manufacturer, it was only 3 to 4 weeks. So I had 3 to 4 week lead time, 2 days shipping, and I'm in the Amazon warehouse. Whereas sometimes in China, it's 45-day lead time. Plus, if you go sea shipping, 30 plus days, and then you're in the warehouse. So you've got to buy a lot more inventory. Be well planned, but that faster that feedback loop, you can have much faster learning, and you can scale a lot faster. Yeah, so I'll just did a little example here to exemplify. So if we have a 45-day lead time from your manufacturer, it's not always that long, it could be 30, but we're gonna get that plus shipping 30 days if we go ocean, and then now that's 2.5 months right there. But we then have to purchase again just about right away, because if our lead time is 2.5 months and we bought 2 to 3 months of inventory, we have to order right away. So we go net negative 5 months of inventory. So it's going to take 4 months to be profitable in that product. Whereas when you have that lower lead time and shipping time, you could get profitable much faster. And this is the reason right here why you see a lot of people having cash flow issues with Amazon FBA. So you may give up some margin on shipping and lead times, but you will gain on the speed and your money back, so you can launch more products. So this is a good criteria I take into account. ROI and lead time are the two top factors that most sellers ignore, and why most sellers have cash flow issues. And it's the number one reason why I was able to scale from 0 to 6 million in 6 months. If I wouldn't have had extreme detail and attention to my ROI and my lead time, I may have only made 300,000 instead of 3 million in that period of time. You guys will find out why in this video. If you have any cash flow issues, you can really solve it by just honing in on your ROI and your lead time. These are the two main levers that you're going to be pulling to get success. Now, the one thing that is dependent on this is having the ability to add more products and knowing how to be successful. But even so, if you're not able to add more products faster and you're still learning, an ROI is going to give you the opportunity to have way less risk comparatively to your expected outcome. So we covered that in the expected value video, where we showed that if something with the wristbands, it could pay off 38x over 2 years, and your worst case scenario was you lost 1,000. Best case, you make 40 grand. So we're going to illustrate why lead time is the most important right now. So here's the question. Would you rather have $1 million or would you rather get a penny? And then every single day you get to double that penny. And so you go somewhere and, day 1, you have 1 penny. Day 2, you have 2 pennies. Day 3, you have 4 pennies, and so on and so on. Well, I would rather have the penny than having the $1 million, because if we do the math out here, at the end of 31 days, you end up having $10 million. It's pretty crazy growth. So this is all because of when you get at least 100% ROI, now you're doubling your money every time, and you go into more of an exponential growth curve. So the higher your ROI, the faster you grow. But that doesn't matter if your lead time isn't as fast. So let's say this one on the left was where you doubled every day. But on the left, let's say you just doubled every 2 days, okay? So let's say your lead time was twice as fast. You had a lead time of 2 days instead of on the left where you have 1. Well, you end up only having $327 at the end of 31 days. It's because it's all about turnaround time at the end of the day. So you just end up hitting this crazy exponential growth curve. The better you get your ROI and the better that you get your lead time. Now, let's say that our lead time was 2 days, but we still were let's say I increased the ROI on this other side and we could change that graph now. If we take a look here on the second column now right here, I've changed this to instead have a 300% ROI instead of a 100% ROI. So that what that actually means is a 300% ROI means you multiply your money by 4. So for every dollar you put in, you get back 4. And then when you put in $4, you end up getting back 16, okay? And you made, so 16 minus 4, you have 12, okay? So that's 300% ROI because that's your profit. And we're able to get the same amount of growth here, and we end up at $10,737,000 regardless. But here's the difference. We literally had to make way more money, and all we did was change the lead time from 2 days to 1 day. Now, I know this is kind of extreme where you're going to ever find a 1 or 2 day lead time, but this is just to prove out the point. So I focused extremely, extremely hard on my business on increasing my ROI and lowering my lead time. So I just want to illustrate that point by making the lead time half as short. We were able to make 100% ROI instead of 300% ROI. So that means if you made, you had $1 and you made $1 on profit on top of that, the other one, we had $1 and we made $3 of profit. So we literally made 3 times as much money, but we grew to the same amount by just having half the lead time. It was as powerful as making 3 times as much profit. So one more way to explain this is, obviously, lead time is important because if you double your money, but your lead time's a year, well, then $1 turns into 2 after 1 year, and then it takes you 2 years just to get $4. So obviously, the shorter the lead time, the way better that it's going to be. So I want to show you guys something kind of cool. So just mentally remember that image of the penny right now, and I'll show you something. All right, so this is literally what happened to my business. I had the exact exponential growth that this penny example does. And it was because I put every ounce of my energy and time and effort into decreasing my lead time and increasing my ROI. So I was constantly raising prices and making sure that I was always getting the highest possible ROI, combined with sales, obviously. But I was actually not making as much money in the short term because I knew that it was helping me grow everything exponentially. I know it seems kind of weird, but we'll show you guys in a little bit here. Now, if I go back to the sheet and we take a look at the typical private labeler first before I show you my example. At the top here, somebody will go, and typical private labeler, about 45-day lead time, 15 days shipping, so about 60 days in between every, you buy, you essentially order, and then 60 days later hits the Amazon warehouse. All right. So, and maybe they're going and getting about 119% ROI. And essentially at the end of the day, they're making a 40% margin. So they think, wow, this is great. But what they're missing out on is that ROI and that lead time aspect. So let's say instead you were to have 180% ROI, but a 43-day cumulative lead time. Well, you're able to get to $460,000 instead of $78,000. Now, what happens if you were to have a 367% ROI and you had the same 43-day lead time? Now, it doesn't seem like much of a difference. Well, it ends up being $3.55 million, which is very accurate to what I did. These are very accurate of my numbers of 367% ROI and about my lead time. All right, so above in that example that I just showed you guys, I was altering ROI and the margin and the lead time, okay? So that some people are like, well, come on, you can't. Come on, of course, that makes sense. But let me just show you how you could, by just altering lead time, it makes an extreme difference to your business. So let's say we're going and we're looking at something and we're talking with our manufacturer and he offers a 60-day lead time, or we could try to argue and get a 45-day lead time. Or, we're just comparing between two people. And most people don't really blink or think at this. Okay, 45 days, whatever. It's, it's 2 weeks. It doesn't make much of a difference. And let's say it's the same margin and everything. Now, I want to show you just how important that 15 days really is to your business. Now, caveat, you need to be able to add products fast. You need to be able to add products as fast as you can. But most people, they can't fund them as fast as they can come up and create them. So let's go over to the spreadsheet now. All right, so if we take a look at this spreadsheet, right here what we have is this is the 60-day lead time up here, and then we have the 45-day lead time here, 60, 40, okay? Everything else is the same, but at the end of 180 days, this one has $78,000, and this one has $171,000. Now that's over 100% more profits comparatively to the other one, just by getting 15 days lead time. Okay, guys, so I am about to make the argument that you will make more money by making less money. Okay, so let me show you here. So let's say, okay, we're gonna argue for that 30-day lead time instead of 45, and we're gonna say we're gonna pay you $9.50 per unit instead of $8.50 per unit. Now, what we're able to do then is, we get less units for our amount invested, but guess what? Because our lead time is faster now, we don't have to order as much. And what ends up happening is we get our money back a lot faster because that lead time, imagine if it was just 1 day, you'd only have to buy 1 day of inventory and you'd get it back the next day. And then you could just keep refunding, or you could keep doing it, and you're not having to float all of this money. Your risk is way reduced. So we're actually able to make $30,000 more in that 180 days by paying more per unit and making less per unit. It's all about having that capital and being able to invest it into more and more products. So let's just show how this really compounds out over time. So let's say that we extended this to 360 days. All of a sudden, you end up making twice as much money as you did before by making less per unit because you're able to keep reinvesting it. So I hope that you guys kind of understand how you can make more money by making less money by having a faster lead time. So we're going to talk about why ROI is important, kind of draw it out here. I'll show you more later. So let's say there's two scenarios, A and B. One, where you get a 70% ROI with A, and then you get a 200% ROI with B. Okay, so what the difference here is that you're able to, when you sell all of A, then you get all of, you're able to reorder A, and then you have 70% left over. So you could put that money into a new product, but it couldn't be as big of an opportunity as A because you didn't make back the whole amount of money as profit. So you could have to go after a smaller opportunity or wait until longer. Now in B, we're able to fund 2 more product opportunities because we had a 200% ROI. Most people think that margin is really important, but it's really not. So if we take a look at margin versus ROI, I really don't care about margin as long as I have a high ROI. Because think of it, if you're investing all of your money at any given time, or you're investing money into a product, you just care about how much did you put in and how much do you get back, not how much of the total sales price. So just a super simple example, let's say it was $100 that you sell it for, okay? And you only get back 10. What if you only paid $1? You just 10x your money. Go find a 10. Now you could have now you have $9 in profit, okay? And then you could now go find, in theory, like if you were to be able to find this, now you could go find 9 more of these opportunities, okay? And after 1 month, or like, just in this theoretical world, in 1 month, you turned $1 into 10. And then now you have all those $9, okay? So that's like 1, 2, 3, blah, blah, blah. And then you turn those into ones that grow into making you another $10. And those make 9 more products, and then pretty soon you're at the freaking moon, okay? But that's a very unreal world, but just trying to illustrate that margin does not matter unless you can't add more ideas. If you can't add any more ideas and you have just a crazy amount of money and you have no cash flow issues, then you might want to focus on increasing your margins and not just so much on these ROI opportunities, because you can't add any more sales to your company at all, no matter what you do. That's the only time that margins should matter. ROI, if you're trying to grow, ROI helps you grow. But if you're flatlined, well, now you're focused on, well, how do I get more of that pie to be profit? But that's the only point. And my guess is if you're watching this video, you're not at that point. So focus on ROI to really grow your business fast. So I'm going to illustrate why this is actually so important. And then we have a more exact formula breaking this down so you can use it tactically. But I want to show you guys visually why it's important. Okay, so let's say on your first order, it requires a stack of cash. Okay, and then now you have to reorder and you have to pay a second stack of cash. Okay, but how do you pay for that second stack of cash? Well, you either pay from it from your pocket or from the sales from the first order. But if you have a long lead time, let's say you may have only sold maybe 25% of that first amount of cash, okay? So we've only sold 25% of that original order, okay? So now take a look at this. Okay, so we sold 1/4 of it, so we've gotten this back. Of course, we get the amount that we paid, but now what is your ROI? So if we have a 70% ROI, then the next stack of cash isn't as tall. So maybe, so this is like what we got back from the inventory, and then here's the profit, maybe like that, okay? So of this, but look, we only have not even enough for that. So essentially what we have back is like half of the first order, and we have to fund this one too. So now we have to fund 1.5 of the original order because we didn't make enough back. But if we were to have more of what if we had a 300% ROI? Well, then this stack of cash, if we had a 300% ROI, we'd get back the original amount plus 3. So 1, 2, 3. Oh, wait, look, we funded the whole thing. So that is all paid for. We've gotten back all the money that we put in, and then we put all that back into there, and we don't have any money issues ever. We only had to put up 1 times the original order. Kind of a messy drawing, but then here's the thing. Because we have such a high ROI, if we get to the next order, by the time we've sold that, we end up having 4 times because we now have sold a whole initial order. So we get back all that money for that initial order plus 3 more. 1, and so 2, and then it goes to 3. So now all of a sudden we've paid for it by the time that order is sold. We can now start 3 new products. And this, we never run into cash flow issues with this product because it has a high ROI. All right. Now, where does lead time come into play with this? If we have a smaller lead time, this is the only thing that changes. That initial stack of cash is just smaller. Okay? Because you can reorder faster, so you don't have to buy as much at one time. So if we increase the ROI, then we get more back and solve the cash flow issue. But we can also reduce the amount that's required in the beginning by having a lower lead time. So it's a combination of both of those, because essentially by having a smaller initial stack, well, let's say you've only got so much money at any given point, but if each order has a smaller initial required stack, then you can make more products, okay? And if it returns more of that initial stack, okay, then you have more products to fund. So if you get a lot of products that require a smaller stack by having a shorter lead time and have a high ROI, you can grow really exponentially. But if you get a lot of orders that are tall stacks and small lead times, then now the amount of cash required actually increases over time and then eventually decreases. So by choosing something with, here's just your quick little trick. If you get something with a 200% ROI and 45 days or less of lead time you shouldn't have too many cash flow issues with it. But if you go with a really long lead time and not above 100% ROI, you run into a lot of cash flow issues. Now, some people think the way to make more money is, well, I should just increase the amount that I buy because I get a lower price. While you may get so let's say this. So they're like, aha, well, if I increase my order amount, then instead of being here for an ROI, I'm now here. Look at that. That's better. But wait, it's not like that, because guess what you just did? You made your stack of cash taller. So why is that second stack taller? Because you just bought more units. Because unless you somehow negotiated a lower price with the same lead time and no more quantity required to buy it, then you're of course going to have to pay more. So if it was $10 a unit and you bought 1,000 and then you negotiated it down to $850, but you have to buy 2,000, well, you just tied up a lot more cash. So your ROI is higher, but if you're running into cash flow issues, you just tied up all your cash to make a little bit extra ROI. But you'd actually be better off by finding, instead, with that extra part of your cash right here, you'd be better off finding something that would additionally have a high ROI or a new product, because that's going to be way higher amount than that little bit extra that you would get by getting more quantity. Here's the math. So like we said, $10, and let's say you were getting 86% ROI. And then what we do is we go back to the example we showed earlier in the video. So I changed it to 10, and you get 86% ROI right there. But let's say we negotiate it to the 850, and all of a sudden we're getting 119% ROI. So at 850, we're getting a 119% ROI. But you need to look at this. So let's say we've invested $10,000 at 86% ROI. But here we have to invest $17,000 at 119% ROI. So as we just said, you have to get a higher quantity from your supplier to get that lower price. So that's why it's $17,000 for the 119% and then $10,000 for the 86%, because we paid more to have a less minimum order quantity. Let's just quickly look at what I was explaining there. So it costs you $10,000 to buy 1,000 units. And then if you were to lower it at $10 a piece, and if you were to lower it to $850, then it costs you $8,500. But to get that $850 price, you have to buy 2,000 units. And we're assuming that they sell 350 units a month. So by buying the 2,000 units, he's actually buying about 5-6 months of inventory, because I think this is a good idea because it's increasing my profit per unit and my ROI. Well, you'll see why that's a mistake. You're selling the same amount. Okay, so you're going to end up getting back the same amount. And essentially, you end up getting a $10,000 profit versus an $8,600 profit. But you have to look at how much you invested. Okay, so in here, remember that we invested $10,000 and we made $8,600 profit. So our ROI was 86% because we forecasted inventory correctly. But if you buy extra inventory because you think you're getting less per unit and you're just having dead inventory sitting there, you're actually getting a 59% ROI. What? Well, look at this, okay? So what you're doing is you invested $17,000, but you only made $10,000 in that time period. Okay, so that's a 59% ROI. So you've missed out on this thing called opportunity cost. So you've missed out on opportunity costs. And that's what this whole video is actually really about. By lowering your lead time, you reduce your risk and increase your ROI, you lower your risk, and you are able to have many more opportunities to add. So as long as you have the opportunity to add more products and the skills to do that, you can. And what you end up doing by buying more inventory to make more money is you'll lose more money because you're losing out on the opportunity to do something else. So what you could have done then instead with that extra $7,000, all right, you could have put that into something that, oh yeah, the other thing to mention is, you know that extra money you did? Yeah, you might have saved a little bit per unit, but you don't have another product that's generating you more money either. So there's another opportunity cost I didn't even account for. So that other $7,000, you could have put that into something that made you 86%, and you ended up would have actually made more money overall, because now that, you know, that ends up coming back to about, let's just call it 6,000 profit there. So instead now, yeah, well, it's 6,000. Getting messy here, 6,000 plus 8,600, let's call that 1,460. Or whatever, and then the other one was 10,115. And the additional benefit now is you have 2 products instead of 1. So if you want to buy more inventory and store it because you think you're going to grow your business that way, that's not a way to grow your business. That's just a way to increase your margins, not a way to grow your business. One other thing that you could do is, so let's say that you have, remember, there's this stack of cash you're required to buy, and you have your ROI, okay? So one other thing you could do is you could increase your prices. So now your ROI becomes higher, okay? But you're gonna say, wait, but I sell less. But wait, this means your stack of cash is lower. Oh, wait, so you're telling me that it requires less capital and I still get that nice little boost. So all of a sudden I've just massively increased my cash flow and my ROI. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You could sell less quantity, probably still make the same amount of money, or maybe a little bit less, but now your ROI is so huge, you don't have a cash flow issue, so then you just add another one of those. And then all of a sudden, now you're growing really fast, okay? So it's all about not tying up too much capital at any given time, because we all run into cash flow issues as we grow. This is how you solve that from a mathematical standpoint. And we're going to go in depth with the formula video, but this is just the general concept to lower that lead time, increase the ROI, you decrease your risk, you solve your cash flow issues. So as we're here in my Celix account, I just want to show you guys what this actually looks like if you go and apply it. Now, what I found was that there's a maximum amount of money you can make on any given product. So what I really focused on was getting that exponential growth by adding more products, okay? Just keep adding, solve all those customer needs that are unsolved in the market and take over the complete area. So I've said before that I did 44 products, and I've been wrong. Apparently I did 100 products in that 5-month period. So we just had the exponential growth, but I just want to show you guys what it's like. Just make all these different variations, and you'll find profit and money to be made on a lot of them, and some of them will be home runs and some of them won't, but you just got to keep adding. And I really focus on having extremely high ROI, and some of them don't have the highest, but just wanted to show you guys, you definitely can make it happen, but just it comes down to get a high ROI, and really, like, I put literally all of my time and efforts into focusing on my lead time and my ROI. We had a factory in my house. We had all the products shipped to us. We did all the inspection ourselves to save time. We shipped it ourselves. We would buy overnight shipping. Literally every day that I could reduce my lead time, I put every ounce of effort into that and stayed up all night just to make sure that everything was always happening. And like, let's say something was it was a Wednesday, and I knew exactly what time I had to get to the warehouse at FedEx so that I would get there on Friday, and then that way they would start to process it over the weekend, and I would get sales. I would really force everybody to do everything they could to get it in on time on Wednesday, because the difference between getting it in, started to check in on Monday versus Friday, at the end of this exponential curve made a huge difference, and I knew that mathematically, so I did everything to push out And then I made sure I was never out of stock. If I was going to run out of stock, I would increase my price and increase my ROI so that my money could keep growing exponentially. I took out credit when I needed to so that I could keep up with the demand curve and keep adding more and more products. And we had like our own factory inside the house so we could keep adding variations. And our lead time was literally so small that I would come up with an idea, I would list it on Amazon and then start running ads to it. And guess what? It would start to sell. Then we'd ship a couple out of our house and I'd ship some into Amazon right away. Great, that's a new product, let's go. And so being able to kind of have this quick lead time and turnaround was the reason that we were able to do so much of this in such a short period of time. So I believe in this concept mathematically and from my personal experience. I turned $7,500 into over $3 million in 5 months of sales history, and it was only by really hardcore focus on my ROI and my margin. Oh, not even my margin, not my margin. That margin was kind of cool, but it was all about the ROI and that lead time. So, and testing out and expanding. So, hope that this has been helpful. One of the other criteria that I'm always looking at when I'm going into markets is brand. Now, here's my tip. When you are just getting started, you don't need to think about brand, okay? You need to essentially just get the skills and the knowledge and learn how the platform works and start to get some money and experience, and then you want to focus on brand. But long term, building a brand has a crazy amount of value. So we're going to go over those now, and then we'll talk later in the branding section kind of more in depth on each one of them and tactically. But here we're just going to go over the overall benefits. All right, so first, we're going to tell you guys a story that I learned in Africa. And this is about scavengers versus lions. So there was a time where we were at this watering hole in Africa earlier this year, and there was like 5 lions sitting there at the watering hole. And there was no joke, a couple thousand zebras all around. I was sitting there wondering, why aren't these lions eating the zebras? I wanted to see a lion attack, okay? And we sat there for an hour and a half. We're like, come on, come on. But the lions wait. The lions wait until they have the best opportunity, and then they go and they pounce. Now, they could have gone and got a zebra, but it was hot in the middle of the day, and it just wasn't worth their time and energy because they know that they are going to go after the huge, easiest opportunities for them. And then who comes in after that? Well, essentially, there's these hyenas that come in. And those are the scavengers. There's some other scavengers in the safari, but essentially what they do is they come in and get the scraps. After the lion is in there, there's certain parts that the lion's like passes up on, and he passes up on, eating the whole thing because he knows he can just go get another one and he's full. So essentially when we are starting out on e-commerce, myself and you guys started, you got to go get the skills and knowledge and go after something that you can actually go for. And maybe start out as a hyena and go for these smaller opportunities that the big lions, they see and they're like, whatever, not for me because I'm going after something huge. Now you see this as every brand gets big. Literally every physical product brand, a lot of them just go for these huge opportunities where they can serve a lot of people, but they pass up on all these small niche ones. And that's where you want to go when you're first starting out, being kind of more the scavenger of where are the scraps left over that I can use to build my skills and actually make quite a bit of money. I mean, there's like, $100,000 opportunities out there that are still, not the big brands are like, whatever, or not going, and, kind of more niche. So that's where you're going to start. I'd started out with that and then moved my way up to being more, I don't know, maybe I'm a lion cub now. All right. I'm not going to say like I'm this giant lion, but, I'm progressively passing up all these smaller opportunities as time goes on. So, just know that. Maybe now we'll give a preview of what being a lion gets you versus being a scavenger. So here are going to be the benefits of having a brand. So the main benefit of having a brand is there's a couple. You can build a lot more real estate and start to really take over that niche on Amazon. So one, you're going to be able to get headline search ads as you build a brand and get a trademark. So that's up here. So here is the headline search ad. And what is nice about this is, look, so I looked up power bank, and all of a sudden now I'm able to see all these other anchor products. So that's one way that, whereas if you just have one product and you're doing headline search ads, which you get with brand registry, you're able to cross-sell your other products through that. All right, so let's say we've clicked on one of Anchor's products here. Now what they are able to do is look at this. You get to show up on frequently bought together as you build out your brand, and you can get more sales through that, okay? So maybe I go and I buy the other items from Anchor, but also you're going to build up and you're going to be able to get comparison of your other products. This is just more real estate. And another thing that you get when you have a brand is you can cross-sell. So you can essentially give coupons to your other products so you can cross-sell and get more awareness. And you can also get these nice, beautiful A+ content, if you're a vendor, it's called, or enhanced brand content. So you're able to build much more beautiful descriptions, and you just get a lot more features. Also, another thing you're able to do when you build a brand, you're able to get video. They're coming out with that soon, and the opportunities are going to be more and more. And then you also get a individual landing page. Now, I don't know anybody that uses these, but there might be a day where people actually go to these, okay? So those are kind of the ways that you get, but let's say we just look up a power bank. Here's the other thing. As you build out your brand, the other benefit is you just grab more real estate. So I'll show you with Anchor, and then I'll show you kind of about myself. So there's a lot of different needs in the portable power bank charger. So like we've said before, we're identifying customer needs, and there's a lot of them. Now, as you build your brand, you're going to want to start doing that and filling all those needs, and then you become the main player in that market. So let's say we have a power bank portable charger. We'll see up here, there's obviously the ads, but then look at this. Now, a highly weighted, this is only in some markets, but essentially Amazon even wrote a guide, and then there's expert recommendations. This is new. So basically, if you build a good premium quality and start building yourself, as they add out these more features of products they kind of trust or have these experts, like, look, they're getting all this free stuff. So best value, best of the best. That doesn't exist in most markets, though. As we identified earlier, there's all these different customer needs and images in their head. And, we're trying to find a great match for that one customer, but that product is not going to be the best for everyone. So as we build out a brand, we want to really focus on making and filling out all of those. So in the market that we go to, no matter what their exact needs are, they start to come to us because we're filling that out over time. And then essentially no matter what search term people are looking up, we're there. And that's essentially what you want to do, is kind of fill out that market and then really focus in on a specific area. So here are going to be some other concepts about building a brand. It's going to be just economically, it makes the most sense. So instead of having to go and find suppliers for every market, as you build out your brand, guess what? You're going to find the best suppliers, and they'll have other products in that niche. Now, what you're able to do is you're able to get increased leverage with them, because you're building that relationship. They're going to give you better terms. They're going to give you better lead times. They're going to care about you as you build out that relationship. And as you start ordering more products from them, you start to get better prices on all of it, and you can combine your shipments together to essentially make everything a lot more easy, and you got a lot more flexibility. You can even get terms with them over time where essentially you pay them 30 days after they ship it to you. So essentially this helps out your cash flow. And another thing is when they come up with new products, because most factories in China they actually have their own in-house design teams, and they do make new products every year, and you get the first take at those. And as you build out this relationship with them, you can even get exclusive. So they're making new products for your market and then offering them to you and saying, hey, do you want, are you interested in this? We'll give you exclusive. So essentially they're doing the product research for you, giving you a unique product and not even putting it on Alibaba. So these are kind of the benefits as you build out a brand and build that relationship with a good manufacturer. And then, it's just awesome. And then here's the other thing, you start to get and know that market. And then over time, you're able to essentially see from your PPC terms, as you run automatic campaigns, you see what other people are looking for and maybe the other recommended products on yours or what's frequently bought together. You get to really know this market in this niche. You essentially know what to buy next. So this is just the Amazon specific benefits of the brand, but there's so many other benefits to it. So essentially, over time, if you build your product inserts correctly and do a really good job with branding, you get people that start to actually look for and be loyal to your brand. They start to think of you. They start to share it with other people, and you get be that specific part in the market where people go. You can take that over. Now, here's the best thing. The best way to build a brand, if you're selling on Amazon, you obviously want to get their attention off the Amazon platform, but essentially you could take over that area on Amazon with your products, and then over time bring them externally to your own platform. Now, what's great is we're going to get addresses. So we get addresses, we get their name and address from the Amazon order, and then you can essentially put that into Facebook campaigns, and then now you're able to target them. So essentially, we don't get an email address, but we can target them on Facebook, try to provide value to them, get them to follow our social media, come to our Shopify store. Essentially, with our product insert, if we do it right, we can get them to sign up for warranties, or kind of find an ethical way to get them to go to our website and then get their email, their contact that way, build out a messenger list. And then essentially, as we're doing launches and giveaways, if we do them in the right places, like Facebook groups that are real, not the fake BS ones, real Facebook groups, we can start to really just build community, build relationship, and actually provide value to this given area. And then over time, everything just gets easier and easier and easier comparatively to if you're just finding unique, little one-off product opportunities. But like I said, this is more of a long-term thing, and you're actually building a business, and it takes more investment and time, but it's how you get something really big and passionate customers that really care versus just finding opportunities. But you got to start somewhere. The best way is just find a good opportunity, get the skills, get some money, get some learnings, and then find where you're passionate about and build out that brand. But we got a lot more in the branding section. But just from everything that I can think of, building a brand is the way to go. It just makes everything easier, and it makes your business sellable. I mean, I'm not trying to build a sellable business anymore. Some people are. I really do suggest that as you build out your brand, you don't just build it to sell. You build it so you want to build something that you don't want to sell. If you're going into actually building a brand, but everybody's goals in life are different. But I want to build something I'm excited to work on every day. So choose what you want to build, and brand is the best way to go long term. Right away, don't get stuck on it. Another additional benefit of building a brand is LTV. What does that mean? Lifetime value. So as we get someone to buy, they might start to buy more and more. And essentially, we're able to fill out that whole market. They're always coming to us. And then now we're not always looking for that next sale, okay? Because if we're going into the right markets and building a brand, we're cross-selling them on so many other things. And essentially, we don't have to gain nearly as many customers. Let's say you were even going into food or something with repurchasable items. Well, you only have to build up a couple thousand of people that are truly passionate and reorder, and guess what? You're good to go, especially if it's like a monthly food thing or something. There's all sorts of types of brands to build. Choose the one that you're going to like and enjoy and that you think is a good opportunity. Oh, one last thing. Some people think that you can't build a brand on Amazon. I completely disagree. You're getting paid to put your products in people's hands, essentially, because you're making money and getting your products into their hand. You can, okay? So if you ever hear that incorrect, it just has to be done properly. Is it the easiest thing? No. But is it possible? Absolutely. And you make money while you're building your brand versus hoping to just build one and that people will come. Instead, you get the people and then you go from there. So on to the next one. Imagine if you would have gone and bought beachfront property in Manhattan or the Hamptons back when it was really cheap. It's essentially what the equivalent of getting all of the real estate that exists on Amazon is. So in this video, I just want to tell you guys how I think about Amazon and the search results as real estate. Now, it's not as stable where you get to just buy it and keep the deed and nobody else can take it from you. But there's ways that you can protect it. And as long as you've got that spot and you do your work to make sure that you maintain it, it'll keep paying you dividends just like all of that other real estate and will continue to appreciate. Okay, so the first concept is essentially, let's say we were going to have a brick and mortar store. The most important thing to them, and actually the most valuable asset is not necessarily their brand or their store. It was their real estate. Where are the customers coming through? The companies actually went bankrupt. I think it was Sears or whatnot, but the most valuable asset they had left at the end was their prime retail locations. So, but things work a little bit differently on Amazon. You see, it's not like there's just putting your product in the right spot in one spot. There's potentially 200 paths that people come to see your product. So we know that 50% of product searches in the world start at the Amazon search bar. Okay, so essentially now everybody's going to be typing in keywords, and your goal is to find as many of those keywords and to become relevant and the best product for those that you actually get a good market fit for. And then if you optimize and you run your PPC and you do all the other things that you can do to get the most sales through those and optimize for those, you're going to get a foothold and essentially grab some of the most valuable real estate that exists in the digital world. Now, it's not the physical world, but as we go in more and more, everybody's going to be looking digitally. And with the way that the algorithms work, they look at buckets. So 30 days, 14 days, 7 days, 90 days. It's always changing. I don't know them exactly, but I know that the longer term buckets do have relevance because I've seen products at the end of their product life cycle whose price will triple and their conversions will kill, but they'll still be ranking for a lot of these keywords because they have this built-in and ingrained thing. So, I mean, if these long discontinued products are able to sell and continue to rank, if you keep yours up to date and keep all of your customers happy and keep enhancing it, you're going to be able to keep your ranking and then grab some of this digital real estate. Now, why is it important to grab all of this? Well, because it's going to increase over time, okay? So eventually, everybody right now has been benefiting from the fact that it's a rising sea, okay? There's always more and more Amazon customers coming on. But what happens when there's a day that there's none, okay? You know, just like in America back in the days, there was always people going out west, so you could keep getting real estate and land, and it was cheap. But eventually, there's no, like, everybody's on it, okay? So that's why it's still in this golden era, because there's just this never-ending land of creating new markets as well as new customers. So that's where this is the golden era right now. Now, here's the thing. So right now, there's literally just more and more real estate being made because of expanding customers. But there's always going to be new real estate being made because there's new markets. So that's where there will always be opportunity, but the opportunity won't be as great several years out as the whole world becomes more but I mean, we've still got maybe 5 years until that happens. So I believe at least for the next 2 years, I don't see any downside. There's going to be a rising sea for everybody, and as well as new markets being made. So this is just a huge disruption. But as it goes on, eventually it tops out. And guess what? Then the only thing is people are willing to spend more and more until eventually margins become zero. But we're still in that opportunity where people, you know, they could make more money doing something else. So 30% ROI, I don't want to do that. But somebody else will take it. So, or work harder. So we're in this golden era where this real estate, you can still go grab it. But if you hold on to it and make something great for that real estate, it's going to appreciate and pay dividends. So yeah, you do everything right, you could sell it, keep there, make money in the same time. And that's what I think is valuable about this, just the most undervalued real estate, except maybe parts of social media and getting people's attention and respect on there. That's a real estate game too, all in itself. So, but I hope that you guys kind of think about this more of the, you know, just think about the long-term value, not short-term of, oh, I broke even, I didn't make any money. Well, you've gotten your way to building up those keyword ranking, and if you had a good product, you know, selling it break even, and then eventually you raise it and you're starting to make money, and then great, now you've built up all these valuable assets and made money. So people will lose money or go cash flow negative on houses because they know that they're getting appreciation and paying down that mortgage. Now maybe there's actually money coming out of their pocket the whole time, but they know at the end of the day, they're going to be ahead, 2-3 years out from now. So this is probably the best business opportunity where you can grow your money. Go and ask any real estate investor if you could make 400% ROI on your money in a year, if they would do it like consistently. They would love that. They make like 10-15% a year and they're happy with that. So now there's other ways that they make money with debt and leveraging, so they can make more cash on cash value, but we're not going to go into that. The end of the day is this is very undervalued real estate, and don't discount it, and don't be afraid that it's going to go away, but it will go away eventually, or just become more. It'll become fairly priced. Okay, right now it is so underpriced. And that's why you can put in the work and go grab some of it. And eventually somebody else will realize that, or you'll just make the dividends from it while it's underpriced. So just for an example, if you think about the real estate charts, so if it's a very profitable market and there's going to be consistent demand for a long time, eventually everybody realizes the true value of it. And they keep, like, a bigger investor will come in and be willing to pay more for it. Because if it yields dividends and appreciates over time, then what a better investment to put your time into. So this is why brands are going to be bought out for large amounts in the future, and people are going to be willing to lose more to get these spots, because these spots for certain keywords and markets are worth so much. So, I mean, here's just a chart of Seattle real estate over time. Now, I do think it is quite an unsustainable graph, but guess what? There's a constant demand from high paid tech individuals in the Seattle area, and there's only so much land. Okay, so, eventually the land stops expanding, and then if there's that demand there and it's valuable, then the price keeps going up. So as long as there's money to be made in a market, the top spots are going to be worth a lot, because it just goes to show, like, so essentially you can imagine this will be the price to pay for the first spot on a search result as time goes on, with PPC bids and everything, as the true value becomes determined. If we could go back now, essentially the same thing has existed in the San Francisco area for housing. It's just, it went up, it goes up and down, but there's just a constant, it's valuable, and there's only so much of it. So, I mean, obviously these people need it for different reasons than this digital real estate, but I'm trying to just get across the point that there's only so much of this. And if it is a profitable niche, bigger pockets come in over time and are willing to spend because they know it's valuable and it's limited. So go in there and try to grab land before it gets expensive. And each market is different, just like the housing market, but your goal is to find maybe the new and upcoming ones in the housing, like there's new and upcoming areas in housing where demand has changed, like Denver recently, that whole area. So you could go and then find the new markets and go grab that real estate while it's cheap, and then get that appreciation and the dividends that it pays. So, all right. So one other key concept to think about on Amazon is that while you could get one piece of property, like let's say you were at the Mall of America, or, in a place that you thought was going to be appreciating over time, you want to grab as much of that real estate as possible. Now, this is what all the biggest brands in the world will do. So if we look at Facebook, yeah, they just started out as Facebook, but then they realized Instagram was coming, and they were in the real estate of digital attention, which is a very valuable asset. So they bought up Instagram for $1 billion, maybe $2 billion. And at the time, a lot of people thought they were crazy. But then, maybe 2 years later, they bought WhatsApp for $18 billion. I still really don't understand how they monetize WhatsApp, but that's a whole nother discussion. This is what the biggest brands will do. So in the group of people that are consuming social media, they are trying to grab all of that attention so that, if they want to go on Facebook and connect with people, they can get them. Or if they're getting people that are doing more pictures and videos, they'll be on Instagram, and you'll see that Instagram just added Instagram TV to try to grab the long form video format. And then WhatsApp, of course, and messaging. So they want to control that whole area. Now, Coca-Cola does this also. So most people think they have Coke, but they also have water brands, just Dasani, I think. Don't hold me accountable to that. But then they have Monster, they have Sprite, they have so many more. And I was even reading it. I think they have Bacardi too. So they're literally getting the whole drink market. So what you can do though, so essentially you want to grab as much of this real estate as possible. So maybe, because there's obviously different niches within each individual market, but if you grab as much of that real estate as possible, you can really establish yourself as a valuable brand. And I guess the best example of this is going to be Anchor. So let's go and I'll just show you how much of that real estate they've grabbed. All right, so when we look at Anchor, they originally started out in about 2012 as just a replacement laptop battery. So they started to go into the whole charging niche over time. So, I mean, if we look up now, they have the Apple cell phone chargers. So they're on here, but they don't just have one. So let's see how many times Anchor shows up here. So they have the top one there. Looks like they don't have any more there, but if you go to power bank, they just took over the power bank market, and they're the one that I trust the most. But essentially, there's people who are looking for more hardcore within this niche, but then there's also people wanting more portable one that still is a pretty good quality brand. So that there's still those people who want a more economic, smaller one within the niche. So if you just look at how many Anchor is ranking for on this page, they're 1, 2, 3, 4. So, they're even the super small. So they're just taking up literally as much real estate as possible to establish themselves as the brand leader and to serve the whole market and make the most out of it. So you definitely want to be taking over your niche. And this is what I did with the solar eclipse. I took over 44 different SKUs. I took every person into account, the professional photographer. Also took into account big groups like schools and governments, and then also was taking care of those individuals who wanted the highest quality product, also people looking at telescopes. So I took over the entire niche. Now, was I the highest seller on any individual ASIN? No, I wasn't. But I had the widest reach. And by doing that, I didn't need to be the best seller because I was just all over the place. And while there was one guy who just crushed at having the top ASIN, I found success by just serving everybody. So, one SKU is not going to serve everybody in a market unless it's a very, very specific market. But so there's always room to serve everybody out. So as you go on time, try to grab as much real estate as possible, because I bet even if we go into Anchor here now, look, there's not only that, but then they can upsell their other stuff, like their other cords and their other cases, and then they will also have who bought this also bought others, so there's other Anchor products. And then you will also get the ability to cross promote your other products here, and then you can also do comparison once you get brand registry. So you're just getting so much real estate, because somebody might click on yours and be like, I want a smaller one, but now they'll see, oh, well, Anchor does have other options. And so by grabbing as much of the market as possible, you are getting as many impressions and potential buyers as possible. So go out there and grab some of this real estate while it's cheap. Now, I don't suggest you try to go grab the power bank market, because it's already been taken, but find your place where you can grab some real estate before it gets too expensive.